All right, call to order. Welcome to the post meeting of Tiburon. Just kick it off. Do you want to, David, could you do a roll call?
Yes, Chair Moon,
Present.
Commissioner Burr,
Here.
Commissioner Holmbrook, here, Commissioner Voss,
Yay.
Commissioner Khan.
Great. Let's move on to oral communications. First off, I would like to welcome two new post commissioners, Nicole Voss and Jonathan Kahn. Welcome. We appreciate your service and we look forward to having some great meetings and sessions and working with you on all of the things that we do. So thank you for volunteering and welcome. Great. All right, so we're going to move on to public comments. So public comments, if anyone has anything to say that is on a topic that is not on the agenda today, please come forward. Okay, having seen that, is there anyone online? No one online? Okay, so we'll move on. Let's go to minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Okay, I'll take roll call.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Public comment on the minutes. None? Okay, I'll take a vote. Chair Moon,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmbrook,
Yes.
Commissioner Burr.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Great. All right, moving right along. Let's go to action items. A1. Action item 1, the Bel Air Play Area Draft Final Design. We have Carlisle Macy here today to present the final plan of the Bel Air Play Area. And can we have a representative, Brianna, to go over the presentation?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, new commissioners. Nice to see the rest of you. I'm here with Pauline Cruz from our office. The original concept. Details of these that are included in the construction documents. We are trying to make an accessible path. So to get grade down from Karen Way, we do have to drop the pathway in those easements. And it will require some small landscape boulder retaining walls is what we're currently proposing. This is a picture of the neighbor's property right here. So the goal is to do something very similar to help retain grade and get that pathway into the park, make this integrated in with the existing neighborhood. There will be native planting areas on each side of the path. Probably very simple. It's not a lot of space. We are proposing keeping access to through all of the gates that the neighbors have along the fences and just making those areas mulched so the neighbors can still open those gates and access the open space as they currently do. We will need to put in a new water meter off of Karen Way so that we can get irrigation and water for a drinking fountain into the site. And then the neighbor on the Clairway end has some existing vegetation that we want to make sure we can protect or replace if it gets damaged during construction. There we go. Within the main park, the main feature is the natural surface quarter-mile loop pathway. It includes access from the Karen Way sidewalk and the Clairway sidewalk. Again, we're talking about a natural surface. I will have some examples of surfacing options here in a second. And what these pictures are showing is we had originally proposed a 15-foot planting buffer, but several neighbors said that that buffer was too big. We were taking away from the open space. So we did a site visit and we actually flagged what a 6-foot path would look like if it was 15 feet away or 10 feet away. And so these pink flags are the 15-foot and the orange flags are the 10-foot. And we agreed that a smaller buffer, a 10-foot buffer, actually created a lot more space, especially on this end. And it did not take away from providing just enough clearance to the neighbors' fences so that it didn't feel like people were right on their fence. So when it comes to pathway materials, we are hoping to get some feedback. We did hear people do not want concrete. One of the considerations we want to think about for the paving is that it needs to maintain accessibility. So trying to find something that achieves that sort of natural surface, but also is accessible and also doesn't create a huge maintenance concern for the town. These are some of the options we're looking at. Porous pave is like a blended rubber with a binding material. It creates an entirely permeable surface. Water literally flows right through it. It's durable and it looks very similar to DG. Organic Lock DG, this is just one version of decomposed granite that incorporates some kind of binder to make it a little bit harder. It does require annual maintenance. It can get moss that grows on it and make it slippery, but it is a very common material that I'm sure most people are familiar with. And then infield blend is something that they use at baseball fields, but also it can be used on tracks, like for elementary schools. It does require maintenance, but it is a more of a natural surface that can be compacted and made accessible as long as it's maintained. Porous pave is more expensive. It's what we've included in our cost estimate. DG and infield blend are a little bit less expensive, at least on the initial installation. Long-term maintenance costs can differ, but we would like to know how people feel about those different options. The plan also includes site furnishings. So as I mentioned before, we reduced the picnic tables down to one location. This is located where a neighbor already has a table and chairs. And then we have two benches. One is set on a pad that allows for wheelchair companion seating, and one is set in the landscape. We also have a bi-level drinking fountain with a pet bowl, which is the town standard, and we want to reuse the pet waste dispensers that are already located in the park. These are the standard Tiburon furnishings provided to us by some of the staff that maintain the parks. It doesn't mean we have to use these, but we just wanted people to understand what is commonly used at other parks. We do know that there are other trash can options, like the big belly bins that could be used. And just for consideration, we looked at some other site materials, site furnishing materials that would be in line with the city standards, but might provide a different feel. Bel Air is definitely like an extension of people's backyards. And so considering furnishings that feel that way, but are still durable and relate to the town standards, we wanted to just put that idea out there and hear what people think. So these are different versions of wood and metal benches. Something we're also showing is you can do different colors. So it might be nice to have some pops of green or something like that instead of stainless steel, which shows dog noses and fingerprints pretty easily. This is a different palette, kind of based off these sort of teak benches. You know, one thing we wanted to put out there is that that picnic table in Bel Air could have a game top on it so that people could come out there and play chess or checkers. And this is just another example of some site furnishings. So if people have thoughts on that, we would really like to hear feedback on that. When it comes to the vegetation in the park, obviously the main feature is the recreational lawn area. We are proposing some accent trees and shade trees, and then around the border is mixed native perennials and grasses. So this is, I'll go quickly through these, but just showing some of the plant palettes. So flowering accent trees, shade trees that would provide seasonal color. They would drop their leaves. These would be deciduous, drop their leaves in the winter time to allow sunlight in. The planting palettes are primarily natives. These would be sort of foundational shrubs against people's fence lines just to provide a backdrop. And then primarily grasses and flowering natives to fill in the rest of the areas. This end of the park gets very, very wet. You can see these lines here are the contours. So if you imagine a drop of water falling here, it will hit these lines perpendicular. And so all the water is running down here, and then this is kind of a low spot. There's also some drainage features from neighbors' backyards that we want to incorporate into the existing storm drain there. And so whatever we plant down here, we want it to tolerate having wet feet and be able to survive and thrive even when it gets wet and soggy down there. And then along the entrances, we are going to have primarily durable grasses and some things that flower. There are some neighbors that have bulbs and things that are growing in there, so we're trying to keep that spirit going. The cost estimate, this is the overall cost estimate. We've grouped items into general categories. And something to point out is that each of these categories currently includes a 10% contingency. When we get to 100% plans, that will drop to 5%. So that's the direct labor and materials to an installation. And then indirect costs are things like contractor fees and cost escalation that gets added on. So we've got a total of just under 690,000. One of the asks of us in our last presentation was to look at phasing. So we do have, we are proposing a couple phasing options, which I'll run through. And then something I want to say is that one of the benefits we have of presenting this now and then modifying it before we go to town council is we can also talk about how changes to materials or value engineering can affect or lower the price. So we are open to that conversation. I just want to be clear about that. So a phase one, what we're looking at is one of the biggest cost drivers is grading and paving. That's something that we need to get in right away. And the second cost driver is this planting and irrigation. So actually, if I go back to this one, you can see how those are the two biggest items. You can see that paving right here is a big cost. So again, I talked about how porous pave is more expensive than DG. So depending on the pavement selection, that's a way we could lower that line item. When we get into phase one, we looked at how we could break out some of this cost, and planting and irrigation seems to be the area where we have the biggest impact that way. And so by reducing some of the planting and irrigation scope in phase one, we can get the direct costs to a little under 420,000 and then get the total to about 550,000. So this is what phase one would look like. That includes getting all of the site grading. That's one of the biggest mobilization items. Getting in that natural surface accessible path. We want to make sure we include the drainage swale. It has a small culvert that goes underneath the pathway so that we make sure we're addressing drainage problems. We would include the site furnishings, but this could be an area where we could move that to a phase two. And we would focus the landscape and irrigation on the lawn and the trees. Phase two would be completing the planting of those other areas between the pathway and the fence line. So you can see here, this is basically just planting and irrigation and amending the soil. And so that would be about 100,000, and with indirect costs added, about 136,000. And so that would be all of these areas, all the understory planting, and including along the entrances from Claire and Karen Way. To touch just a little bit on project timeline so everyone understands how we're moving forward. We had our first meeting in February, the second meeting with the revised concept in March. Here we are in May presenting our 60% CDs for your comment. We will take any feedback we receive to incorporate it into the presentation to town council, currently proposed for June 17th. And we would go out to bid in July and hopefully start construction in September and be complete by the end of the year. I was also asked just to provide a brief update on Cypress Hollow, since that's the other park that we're working on.
Why don't we hold off on that? We have that later in the agenda.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
It was just the timeline.
Yeah.
So, but I'll hold on. So I'll just skip ahead and say any questions.
Great, let's open it up to questions for the commissioners.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Again, for the 1 millionth time, thank you for all your work from Carlisle Macy. It's been awesome working with y'all. But as we get down to brass tacks, we definitely have some questions here. So I'll ask, because my fellow commissioners know, no fear asking the dumb questions. So we'll start with those and some of the basics. So first and foremost, micro estimating the company. I'm a little unfamiliar with like the relationship with them. I mean, obviously I understand what they do now, but why is it necessary for Carlisle Macy to work with a company like Micro Estimating? And the underlying question there is that a requirement in some capacity that the town put on y'all? Or is that based on just your working relationships? You tend to lean on them for these estimates.
When we proposed on all 4 parks. And we do our own cost estimating in Sonoma County, but the contractors that work in Sonoma County don't necessarily work in Marin. The cost can be very different. And so we reached out to Micro Estimating to join our team and be a sub-consultant to us to help us make sure we were giving accurate cost estimates. So that's their entire job, is to do cost estimates, not just a service that they provide. And so they do research, they reach out to manufacturers and get pricing. They have access to recent bids. They work with other contractors to find out, what is their markup. And so we're trying to give you a very informed cost estimate where, if we were doing it ourselves, it would be a lot more work to get it as accurate as we want to for you guys.
Understood. Okay, that's very interesting. What percentage of the projects that when you presenting to a town council, city council, how often are you working with a company like Micro Estimating? Like, is this more than 50% of your projects, or fewer than 50% where you work with a cost estimator like this?
I'd say fewer than 50%. Especially when we were bidding on projects like the Richardson Bay Sanitation Pond site, that was a big project. And so we wanted a cost estimator on our team to make sure that we were giving you guys accurate numbers.
Got it.
And if you look at the design fee, they're not a huge fee, but they do what they do very well. So that's why we're working with them on this.
Got it. So it gives you a little peace of mind that there's, accurate with respect to, what the local costs are. Okay.
Right.
So to get into some of the obvious questions here, just where we can cut costs, and grading is, there's the 2 major ones are grading and then on the paving, but we'll get to that. Are there, just asking it directly, can we cut those costs in some capacity? And if you feel like there are challenges there with respect to grading, please educate us. Like, are there legal challenges if we're taking on a remodel? Does this have to be graded to a certain degree? And David, I don't know, maybe you have an answer in terms of some of our town specifications or requirements, but just to ask, how is there any way to cut costs on grading?
Yeah, so the grading line item is about, I'll round up, it's about 70,000. So it's pretty small in the overall pool of costs. The grading is to create that accessible path and to make sure that the lawn and the planting areas have like positive drainage towards the low spot in the park, towards the drainage structures there. So we're trying to avoid creating like puddles or areas that drain back into neighbors' yards. And we're also trying to achieve that accessible path. And the accessible path is the biggest challenge. Most of the site is fairly uniform,
Yeah.
but it's that entrance off of Karen Way that is like when you come in, it's pretty steep. So we have to cut that down to get it accessible. So I think if we were trying to cut costs on grading, we would probably need to look at, do we need it to be accessible from both ends of the park? Do we, do we need to rethink how close we are to people's yards? I mean, grading, I think, is one of the things that needs to happen.
Sure.
And accessible, you mean ADA? What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm sorry. I mean, achieving the requirements of ADA and the California Building Code. So a pathway that doesn't exceed more than 5% longitudinal slope or more than 2% cross slope. If you go, you can go up to 8%, but between 5 and 8%, it becomes a ramp and it needs handrails, which adds cost. So we're trying to keep it below 5%.
Gotcha. Is it a requirement for both entry exits to be ADA compliant, or could it be one if you decided that you wanted to do one?
I think that's something we'd have to work out with David.
Then the town would need to make sure that the sidewalks and there's an accessible path all the way, whichever side we choose. So I think having accessible path from both entrances would be cheaper.
Okay.
Because then we would have to go out and basically make sure that we have pathways from whichever side we choose, and it all depends on where folks park and how they want to get to it. There needs to be an accessible path to that.
Okay, got it.
Is the grading that is cost estimate in here so just to be clear, that is only for the path that's contemplated, or does that include like the center of the park and the entirety of it?
It's for the whole site. So it's all of the earthwork, all the soil being moved, and for on the whole site.
Okay.
If you're looking within that grading and paving line item, paving is the bigger cost at 160,000. And again, that's because we're currently cost estimating based on using the porous paved material, which is that blended rubber with aggregate, and having metal edging on each side. That's based on a conversation we had with Cameron and other staff from the town, which is decomposed granite pathways are a lot of maintenance, and they very quickly become not accessible, not ADA accessible or ADA compliant. And if you use like less expensive, softer edging, it starts to warp and that becomes a maintenance hazard. So by doing something like the thicker aluminum edging, and using this porous material, we create a pathway that doesn't have long-term maintenance implications, which is another cost. If you have to come in and top off a path every year and fix the edging, that costs more money. So.
Got it. And then last question, and you highlighted this on the slide, but you said, porous paving is a certain cost. The other two options were, less costly. I'm a baseball guy, so I like the infield one, but can you talk a little bit more about like how much of a reduction in costs you might be able to find if you used one of those other two, and how, which of those two alternative options might be cheaper? Or
So we're still doing some research. Pauline's been reaching out to the manufacturers of those different products, but I will say that when we spoke with our cost estimator, they consider like a decomposed granite with a binder in it at $9 a square foot. And right now the porous pave, I think, is about $16 a square foot.
okay.
So it's not quite half, but there is a savings there for the initial install. And I believe does not include the metal edging. That's a separate cost. So, we would still have the metal edging in for the DG.
Got it.
You can with porous pave not do the metal edging. So anyways, there's a lot of ways that we can move these numbers around, but it really is dependent on, what the material you guys want to select is, and then also what the maintenance concerns that you have are.
Okay, thanks, Brianna.
Just, thank you for, again, you guys are great to work with, so really appreciate your time on everything. If there was one piece in here that along either Tim's questions or others that you would value engineer into this to say like, that's a Cadillac. This is the Chevy Impala. Of the items that are listed here, which would you recommend maybe changing? Or you could say like none, I think it's great.
Well, I do think what we're proposing is a solid design that will reduce maintenance concerns and also make the neighborhood happy. But we understand that you have to make these changes. I actually think that one of the biggest impacts might be just in the irrigation and planting. And I called out amendments in there. That is an assumption of like rototilling the top 6 to 8 inches, coming in and applying different fertilizers based on a soil test, just to really get like a quality base for all of those plants. And I think there's ways that we could look into what the quality is out there and maybe reduce that a little bit. And I also think that we can reduce the sort of presumed intensity of planting, space things out a lot more, do things that have that are more ground cover like, that spread so you don't have to do as many plants. And then we can look at adjusting the irrigation so that maybe it's just emitters to specific plants rather than kind of like a what we would normally do, which is a grid of drip line. We could look at doing stuff like that, I think. And maybe that would be enough to show improvements, but not add a whole lot of extra costs that way.
If I may add also, I also want the commission to know that the indirect costs from the contractor, those are basically kind of like their profit margin, what they spend to keep the company moving up. So if we have competitive bids here, that's what they play with, is their indirect costs. So we have a 166 here for indirect costs, but this is possibly on the higher end of a contractor when you figure that out, because I've seen a lot of bids that come in on our paving jobs where there's the last one was a $600,000 difference from the high end to the low end. So material is material. They're still going to try to be competitive. These are estimates. And as Brianna know, in our industry here, these estimates are not always accurate. They're as close as possible. And projects, we get different bids on the same project it all depends on who bids on there. So I think we have a lot of wiggle room here. When bids come in, I'm getting a lot of contacts, or contractors are contacting me. When are these projects going to go out to bid? So there's a lot of enthusiasm out there from contractors, local contractors that want to bid on these projects. So that's one thing I want you to keep in mind, is the indirect costs, they will fluctuate.
Right. Thank you. And just one other question, and also hopefully the folks that are bidding on stuff are not looking at the Tiburon uplift in pricing that many of us have encountered with other contractors. Is there a place that you're aware of that we could look at the different types of paving, or maybe COSA knows it here in Marin, of the different types of, I'd just like to be able to see it, to know it?
Yeah, I think we can pull together some locations where you could go out and look at different options. I don't know if we'll have exactly like the infield mix or the organic lock, but we can find similar
cool.
things. And then would love to ask RHAA if you guys know of places too. That would be great.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thanks, Mike.
I had a similar question about the porous pave. I'd love to see a location to be able to walk on it and check it out. But a question I had about the porous pave, is that material durable enough to handle like bikes that might be riding on it?
If it can handle vehicular traffic if it's thick enough. And so, but I would say a lot of those materials that are, I mean, even DG, anything that has can be loosened, tire tracks will kind of adjust to the surface a little bit. But I mean, I believe that porous pave is installed at Stanford around all of their bike parking areas. So I do think that it can probably handle that, but I'll get you some examples of that.
Okay. No, I just thought that that area, I can imagine toddlers and kids learning how to ride bikes and big wheels and scooters, like going around in circles. I could see that. So whatever material that we do use, it might be nice that it is durable enough to handle that kind of use. The other question I had was around this indirect cost. If you just calculate the 166 over the 522, it's about 30% markup. David, I'm curious, what is kind of the average contractor markup nowadays? It can't be 30%, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing on some of our, and it all depends on the size of the
Right.
job. The larger the job, the lower the markup. On a lot of our paving jobs, we've noticed, we're looking at close to about a 11%, 12%.
Yeah. So there's a big cushion in that number, like really big. Okay. All right. That's all I had.
Yes, I was thinking, is it possible to bring a sample of potentially the porous pave to the town council meeting when we do go to present it? It might be nice for everyone to be able to hold it or touch it.
Absolutely.
And then the second part, in the phase 1 and phase 2, not sure we're gonna proceed with that approach. But roughly what would be the timeline and how long would it take for phase 1 versus phase 2?
But are you asking about how long it would take to implement phase 2 or how long would it take to construct it?
I guess both, or you recommend, if we wanted to hold off until maybe the next fiscal year, or what would change, or like how long it would take? Because in the timeline, it just shows like we could do it by the end of the year.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that timeline is not considering a second phase. That's more like to get the initial thing installed. So I mean when you could put that out to bid, I think would be dependent on the town and probably, another fiscal year. I could see being a conceivable time to wait. And then in terms of construction, it wouldn't take very long at all. We would structure the plan so that, the like irrigation basically would get stubbed up to areas where people would need to connect to it later. So that you wouldn't have to disturb a lot of the site just to come back in and install planting and irrigation. That's one of the reasons why we pulled that out as a phase 2 item, because it could be done without a lot of destruction of the other stuff that you just had installed.
Thank you.
Thank you for this beautiful plan. I'm sure it'll be very bucolic when it's done. I have a couple of quick questions. I'm new here, so this may have been covered. Were there plans at all for an ADA cut in the sidewalks facing Karen and Claire Way?
There are existing accessible corner ramps, just, a few houses down. So those seem to be they're already there, so it didn't seem necessary to add a curb cut so directly in front of those entrances.
Thank you. And another is signage from Claire or Karen Way. I noticed just as a pedestrian and also driving by, it's pretty hard to see the entrances. Are there any plans for increased signage?
We have actually a consultant on board right now that's working on signage, citywide signage for parks and open space that we're going to come to the post commission and have a presentation and show you what she has come up with this July. And that'll include all the parks.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Why don't we move it to public comment? If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come up and speak, please. And as a reminder, we have 3 minutes of time. We could start the timer. That would be great.
Jenna. I live in the area where this park is located, and it's really exciting to see how far this has come along. And there's a lot of excitement for this park. And I think people would be interested in opportunities to potentially donate to this project and then have their family's name recognized in some way in the park. So I was wondering if anyone's discussed incorporating donor recognition elements into the design, such as adopting a tree or a bench or even a water fountain or a flower bush, or even like a plaque with donors' names. And is that something the landscape architect could advise on, or is that something that would come more from the community making suggestions? And then on a related note, could the town create a mechanism to receive donations from the community and then have this companion part of getting donors recognized in some way? So that's all, but really exciting and really hope this moves forward. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anybody else from the audience?
Ready? My name is Scott Larson, 160 Rancho. Just a few comments on the Bel Air Park. Yeah, I go back to, was sitting right back here when we first started this commission like 3+ years ago, and many subsequent meetings. Bel Air Park was always, it was a park that was supposed to alleviate the overuse of parks like Cypress Hollow. It was identified early on as an area for an opportunity. It's twice the size of Cypress Hollow. It's in a neighborhood the same as Cypress Hollow. And we have overuse on that side. And this was always originally was targeted for that kind of use. And I guess I appreciate the focus on this, but it's a play area. It's kids area. Where's the play area go to a play structure? Where do you start incorporating some of the more kids to offset this? It's a big, beautiful area. It's a secure area. I just don't understand why it's not used as I would think a park should be used in an area that has a teeming amount of young families that could really use a spot that's not just a path, it's a park. And so I guess I respectfully will say, that people love shade trees. Why don't we put some shade trees in there so you can give kids some shade? Hey, if you're going to look at a park that is that all it's going to have is a play area, I think you're missing the focus of a play structure and actually bringing some more kids in, some neighborhood kids into neighborhoods to actually share in what we do, which is we incorporate kids into our neighborhood. And this park, to me, is an underutilized park. It's an absolute opportunity to offset overuse in others. And I would just say respectfully that it's a diamond in the rough in an area that has a lot of kids that I don't understand why we're not taking more advantage of it. And this, to me, if you're looking at moms that get up, this is a mom's group. This will be a great opportunity for kids and families in an area that really could support it. So respectfully, I think this should be looked at not so much as a neighborhood backyard play area. It should be looked at as a playground going to a play structure. And I guess I would respectfully say that I think we missed it on the original concept and where this thing actually went. I think it would be a fantastic opportunity to actually look at this, what it was originally intended to. It's supposed to be a park. And I think parks have kids and kids have structures, and this is twice the size of Cypress Hollow. It's a nice park and it's secure as well. So that's my comments. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience want to come up?
Hi, my name is Jim Tull. I live at 80 Cypress Hollow. I just want to echo what Scott said. I mean, when you look at the title, it says Bel Air Play Area. Where's the play area? They decided to take out a bench and put a path around it. That's not a play area. Or if it is, let's make Cypress Hollow play area the same. Let's take all of the equipment out and make it an open area. So I think it is an area that is surrounded by homes and walkability for kids. The problem we have in our area, and we can discuss that later, is people drive to it and it's overused, and this is underused. I went down there numerous times. No one is there. Our neighborhood is packed with cars. It's a complete lack of understanding our issue and looking. If you're coordinating parks, do your job.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Okay, seeing none, why don't we go online?
Online, we have Emily.
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Good, and I apologize, I've got little ones in the background, little ones who are really excited about this park. I really love it. It's exciting to see this going. It's going to be so great for the neighborhood, for families, the evacuation site for the school. I have a couple questions. You don't need to answer them on the fly, but just to ask, the pathway setback from the property lines and then the width, how much of the area is it going to narrow, that open playing area? So maybe by percent or maybe by final width, but just kind of making sure this really is an area that kids play ball, kids kick soccer balls. And yeah, as the people were saying, we have Cypress Hollow for playground equipment, but this is one we really need for ball playing, and it's pretty awesome. So I'd love to kind of think about just making sure that that open area stays open enough. I also, in terms of the material and talking about the pathway, in addition to bikes, which one of the commissioners brought up, I think dogs are going to be all over those paths since it is really used as a dog park in a lot of ways. So thinking about dogs running and digging. And certainly I will reiterate that drainage really can be an issue in Bel Air. So real concerns with the pump station potentially at the end of the neighborhood as well. So thinking about the grading and attending to the way it flows is, I think, really important. I will say I showed my 6-year-old the pictures that you were showing tonight, and he said, I think that's going to be the best park ever if they put that all in. So I really thank you all. I know there's been a ton of work to get to this point, and I'm really excited to see it going forward.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
None.
Okay. With that, let's bring it back to a discussion with the commissioners. Does anyone want to go first?
Actually, not to put you guys on the spot, but I'd be interested in your
Yeah.
initial observations.
I know this is the 9th inning here in this planning and for a baseball analogy. But I was kind of curious when I was researching this, there was a prior iterations that did have play areas or proposed play areas, and those dropped off the planning. And I was just kind of curious, what the genesis of this type of park was versus something that had more defined structures for traditional children's play areas.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's all sort of on the table, just not in front of us tonight. I mean, we've had a lot, like years and years of like looking at playground equipment in the park, what parks needed some updates. It came out that some of these parks, hadn't been updated, since like 08, 09. I think Cypress Hollow was one of them. Sorry, now I'm focused on Cypress Hollow. Let's move back to Bel Air. And as we were looking at the parks overall, we were handling things like piecemeal, park by park. That resulted in the master plan. And the master plan has some pretty important components to it, including the old, ponds down by McKegney Green. But the mini parks, so Bel Air, Belveron, and Cypress Hollow, all recognized as neighborhood parks. We kind of took these on separate under the concept of getting some quick wins, some quick designs, thinking that some of the parks, including down by the ponds, might take a little longer to, get consensus or, to have those things built or come to fruition. So that's kind of where the focus on some of the mini parks came from.
But specifically on like, why doesn't Bel Air, it's a nice park surrounded by homes. It's lacking some trees, but why not? In the strategic plan, it was concluded in a vote by town council that this is what its amenities would be and would not be. And it would not be as like a large expansive play structures. There is a plan in part of the strategic plan to place a play structure potentially over in Blackie's pasture, which is part of another discussion. And that's why the plan was like how it was put together, John. So I would, if my suggestion is all of these are guided by that strategic plan so that we're not going off and doing rogue decisions about like, well, let's just try this one. It's all measured on the strategic plan about why we did these certain things. So, I would recommend taking it's long and big, but there are elements in the drawings of what they put together. And that was a year and a half study that we did of thousands of dollars and millions of lives. No, it just took a long time though.
I would also add that I thought Tim and Chuck have done a great job getting feedback from the community, particularly of people who are around this neighborhood, with surveys and countless community meetings and getting input through emails and comments. And then this is just my outsider's view because I'm not on the subcommittee, but this was a result of a lot of feedback and ultimately a compromise between two camps. One camp, which is let's make it a playground with a lot of equipment. And the other camp being don't touch it. Absolutely just leave it as it is because it should be natural and just a place, a raw kind of place for people to do what they want to do. And my sort of view is that after a lot of negotiation, input, feedback, surveys, years now in the making, this is what's come out as what consensus sort of came to in terms of what the park should be. And I think it's an area where like neither camp is fully satisfied, but in my view, what's come out, I think is quite nice, and I'm very supportive. I think we should move forward with something like this.
Well, thank you for that background. Again, these are, I knew there were some sort of negotiations, and I really like to hear that background that there was from people that really wanted to keep it the raw, natural state versus much more developed. And knowing that, just as again, coming in at the 9th inning here, I think it's going to be beautiful and a great addition to the neighborhood. Yeah, and I fully support this.
It's not, I don't feel like it's mutually exclusive. By having this grade and drainage and kind of solving some of the basic problems that we experience with the park today, maybe in 5-10 years, we could look at adding more play structures there regarding like how it works with the master plan, of course, but we might see like how residents are using it and then take another approach potentially. So it's not no forever maybe, but it's maybe we're making the base, the foundation better than it is today.
Yeah, I don't think any of us were concluding that. I think that's
No,
just,
no, I'm
it is, the strategic plan is what guides what we're making the decisions on, because that was what was voted out. Again, whereas a policy, that's what we need to decide moving forward. That's, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. So back to the comments on the park. Again, Brianna and our team have been amazing. I still have, we had a joint meeting with town council, I don't know, 2 months ago. We talked a lot about the sticker shock in terms of, the cost of these parks moving forward. I framed that, Jonathan, for you in particular about, the quick win, just because I personally I have concerns about these getting done. And what I worry about is these moving on, this comes out at $500,000, maybe more. And suddenly it finds itself lower on the priority list. And so what, could be an opportunity for a quick win becomes something that the town can't take on. And I think the work that Brianna and her team have done to balance all of this very passionate interest when it comes to this park, and a lot of tremendous history. It's been awesome finding out about it. That's my concern. It's just that the cost ends up too high. And when we have opportunities to, make an impact or prioritize some of the other parks, that this may not be feasible as it moves forward. That's not necessarily our decision to make with respect to the budget. So, I just say that to open it up for discussion to see if other commissioners have similar concerns. As always, I was impressed with Brianna's ability to say, hey, look, these are the other options. We want to give you a good cost estimate, but there are opportunities to reduce the cost. And, just personally, I'd like to see something move on that I feel like has a better chance of actually coming to fruition. So just wanted to throw that out there for comment.
Yeah, I agree with that, with Tim in terms of the budget constraint, and we're very aware of this issue. But I thought it was a good question, and I wasn't clear because I think the people have been independently within the town have been looking at ways to create nonprofits. And it hasn't been driven by the Post Commission, but happy to be part of those discussions. I think there's been comments or discussions with the town manager and looking at nonprofits to figure out a way to do that. But actually, to put you on the spot, Brianna, that was a good question about if you were to add something in this park that would fit with your architectural vision and you and Pauline's vision on this, where would you put, and also to think about for Cypress Hollow as well. When we get to that detail on that plan, which will be in a couple months, where would you put a way to recognize people who wanted to raise funds for this specific park?
I think there are many opportunities, and Jenna, when she spoke, put out a lot of good options. I mean, there are things like we only got 2 benches and a picnic table, but those can be you can get donor plaques that go on those. There can be, a plaque that it goes along with the trees, or within the garden. You can do boulders, that could be set in the landscape and could have donor names put into the boulders. We could incorporate donor bricks like in a band within the pathways. We could put like a concrete or a brick band, every so many feet along that path that then could be used for measuring distance by the kids riding their bikes, and then donor names could be put on those. There really are just a lot of options of what we could do, and I would to pick something, it'd probably be a conversation like, do you guys have other examples in the town that we could take inspiration from?
Yeah, the only ones I'm not aware of is on the trestle. There was some fundraising for that, but I think the plaques there have been like difficult to maintain. I think it's been a challenge because that kind of was a different project just when I moved to town. So like 10 years ago it was put in. And then a lot of the benches, there are benches with memorial benches for people. But it's helpful that you've thought about that. And I think it's important for the community. And again, as a commissioner, I mean, I think we want to do that. I think we want to find ways to do that, to do fundraising within the town. It would be great if those who are driving those things would be very clear to what their status is on things, because I don't know what is going on when it's not in a public environment like such as this. So I only hear bits and pieces. So maybe, I don't know if anybody else on the commission knows about any fundraising that's going on.
I'll just make an aside. I'm kind of surprised there isn't already a Parks Foundation, a 501c.
Totally agree with you.
Like we have next door for the library, because this is perfect. The difficulty of 501c3 is people want to donate money, and then people are able to write that off on their taxes. But the institution you donated to has to have some sort of public benefit, has to be open to the public, educational, historical, something like that. And a park like this is 100% open to the public. So, we would have no problems with any sort of IRS difficulties if we had such a foundation.
Agreed.
So obviously we're not going to do that tonight, but I think going forward, it'd be worth looking into that as we do more parks and people want to step up and want to donate, and also get a certain percentage off their taxes for, whatever they want, a bench or whatever. So, again, I'm just throwing that out. I'm just surprised it hasn't come up yet.
I think there has been some grassroots effort to look at what foundation could potentially do that, because this is going to cost money. Of course, we want to be fiscally responsible, but we also want it to be nice. It's Tiburon. We want it to be a nice place to be. We kind of don't want to have it halfway. I want the parks to be nice. A lot of the public comments want multi-generations to be able to go to the park, not just have kids play their area, but also to be able to walk around, have shade. These are all very important considerations. So I want to make sure it's a nice park. And if we need to fundraise, then I'm sure the town can find a way to do that.
The town citizens.
Yes, correct. The town residents and citizens, correct.
Actually, this may be more appropriate in the subcommittee discussion, but is there, David, do you know, is there a limitation for host members to be involved with the creation of a nonprofit? Like, could we have a subcommittee of sort of a Parks Foundation subcommittee that helps working with citizens that are looking to put together a nonprofit?
You can create a subcommittee, but as far as the involvement and beyond that, like being on the board, I'd have to ask our town engineer, but you can be on a subcommittee that helps guide this but then that board that's created is totally separate from the subcommittee and its
right.
members.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Something we're
Yeah.
thinking about.
Were there any other questions on this plan again, which I think is a great plan, but, and I appreciate Nicole, thanks for the thought on the fundraising, and John, your comments. Is there any other questions that you guys have, or should we make a motion?
I move to approve the plan. One caveat is if we are going to present this to town council, I think it'd be helpful to maybe just from a presentation standpoint, have the direct costs not include the 10% contingency and have a separate line that says contingency. And then in the indirect costs, I mean, a 30% markup seems kind of high. So if we can move that down to a 20% or 15, whatever you feel comfortable with, but it seems like it's kind of too big right now. Then that lowers the overall total project cost. I think then the higher chance that, to Tim's point, the higher chance that, you know, town council will be more excited about approving it.
Well, is there a way to move this forward with, I mean, with having a range of costs here, or taking a look at highlighting a lower, like the lower cost options?
I think it would be beneficial for us if you gave us some clear direction on, you know, what is a feasible budget? I mean, how far would we need to get this below what it currently is, so that it is palatable to town council? Because then that gives us, is it we're tightening up the costs and lowering these overhead,
Yeah.
these percentages? Is it we're looking at different phasing? Is it are we looking at value engineering the design? Because we could use all of those tools, but it's only we need to work towards something, I guess.
All in, I'd say a reduction of 20% roughly,
Okay.
about 100, and I sound like looking for votes in the state of Georgia, but something around like 500K.
20% reduction off the total price.
cost, That's
Okay.
right. Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer to your question, and it's the fair one. I don't want you bidding against yourself or reducing just, you know, to reduce, but I am concerned, having been here for that joint meeting, you were here too, that, I don't want this one to, this is a park that we've gotten a lot of great engagement from the neighborhood on, and I'd love to see these improvements come to fruition. I think we'd get a lot of community, you know, I think the community will be well served to see these improvements happen. And so, you know, it's a fair question back. I don't have an answer. I just feel like this still feels expensive. And I think, you know, particularly on items like the porous and looking for ways. One thing that struck me is, for example, the furnishings. Those absolutely were the right prices. Like there was no sticker shock there at all. It's just all the work around those items, which I thought was interesting. I just, you know, might have assumed that the furnishings might come back as being a bit unreasonable, but like you source great prices on that. So I think part of any motion to move this forward, just for the sake of this project, should be making sure that we're providing towns council with additional options for some of for more affordable and cost sensitive pieces for both paving as well as the grading.
May I make one additional
Please,
comment?
yes.
So one item that just occurred to me that you guys asked us to look into is the cost of the water meter. We are waiting for a response from Marin Municipal Water District about the cost of connection fees. Those aren't included in this price. So David had expressed that, oh wow, the new water meter connection seems kind of low based on, and that's because this is just construction cost, but municipal connection fees wasn't included. So we will make sure though we'll have those numbers and we will get those incorporated into town council, but that I mean, that can be a pretty big number. So, I mean, not like massively big, but when we're talking about a 20% reduction, we'll make sure we factor that in addition to into the other items.
Yeah, I get just a sense, Tim, and I mean, again, the discretionary budget for the town is between 3 to 5 million, maybe 3 to 4 million on other things are taken salaries, pension plans, et cetera, roughly about 3 to 4 million. So it's like, okay, how can we try to get some of our parks done to move forward? Fundraising is a great idea for covering part of it. That's what our friends over in Belvedere did for their play structure, an area right in front of their city hall. So I think trying to find like around, it feels to me kind of makes sense, is around 500K. That just kind of feels like, okay. I mean, and to be, just to let the other commissioners know, I mean, when we first got this, I was like, why is the irrigation cost this way? Why is it like this? Why are we doing this? And poor Brianna's dealing with me explaining it. And a lot of it's labor, frankly, and which is a great point, right? And it is that labor, the rototilling. I don't know if anybody's ever rototilled anything or jackhammered anything, but it's hard work and it takes a long time. And so those things are just, they're real costs. And we don't, and this is an expensive part of the world in which we live in. So that's just to be expected. So I think I feel okay making a motion to say that of a plan to return that's around $500,000. I mean, if it's like 501 or 498, great. But does that seem like a fair? So I'd like a motion to move this plan forward with a budget target of hitting approximately $500,000.
I mean, you're taking out like close to $200,000 out of the project. I mean, I don't know, you tell me, but it seems hard to kind of manufacture that, because where are they going to get those costs? Because then it changes the fundamental of the design potentially of what they're presenting. So
maybe. Well, then we table it and do another step. I mean,
because
20% is, it's 20%, right?
They had suggest phasing it if you're looking to take cost out.
Right, but it still would be, I mean, the phasing would be incomplete, right? You'd have dirt and stuff on the outside of the paving of, I mean, I appreciate you did the work, but it would be outside the path would be dirt and it wouldn't be complete.
Well, let's just ask the question. Do you feel like you could have a target budget of around 500K without major overhaul of the design?
I will have to look at stuff and again, you know, we're talking about the contingency drops to 5% once we get to complete construction documents. I'm not sure how big of a savings that would create.
One
That
thing,
doesn't say
25K.
Yeah, so not a whole lot. And you know, I do think with phasing, we could do it in a way where we're not just leaving bare dirt. Maybe we come in with a wildflower seed mix or something that, you know, doesn't get irrigated and it's just natural until the next fiscal year. There are like mobilization costs when you remobilize contractors, right? That would need to be factored in. I think giving us that budget or that reduction goal gives us something to work towards. And then we are working with you guys outside of these meetings and we can communicate with you if we're saying, look, hey, this just isn't feasible at all. We can't do it. You know, I think we can have that conversation and take guidance from you on what to do next. But I mean, we will do our very best, but I can't, that's a hard one for me to answer on the fly, I think. We've been looking at the numbers and we've been having conversations with the cost estimator about, like, hey, you know, can you tell us how tight is this number? Can you know, we talked about separating the irrigation out into separate line items so that we can get a little more granular, but you know, there's 6% in there that's cost escalation in those indirect costs, which is the longer it takes to get to construction, the more expensive things get. And I'll give you just, I won't take too much more of your time, but I'll say in 2020, we built a 6-acre park for $3.5 million. And then just recently, we're working on a park and we're just doing like the playground and some path and some furnishings around it, half an acre maybe, and it's $1.5 million. And that's just because it costs so much more to build stuff. Materials are so much more expensive. People are being paid more, which is great, but all of those things just make everything so much more expensive now than they were just 6 years ago. So, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why having a cost estimator is helpful, because they're getting the current numbers where, so we will strive for that, and then we'll keep in contact with you guys.
I totally hear you, but I think this was always about enhancements, right? Not a new park, not a major redesign. I'd love to, I'm sure we've seen at some point in time, we probably saw those samples, but I mean, I think setting a target, knowing that it's not make or break, that it's a target, is a fair way to move this forward. I think you're hearing us loud and clear that there's going to be a price sensitivity as these projects move forward. And because we want to see them happen, that's why we want to make sure we're pressure testing them now here before it goes in front of the council, and it's easier for them to just say, hey, way too much, sorry.
So, are you guys saying that have them come back with the value engineer plan that's close to 500,000?
I don't think so.
Or have them do what they want to do to get 500 and go to town council with that?
I mean, first of all, I mean, I'd love to know if maybe we're right or wrong with respect to the price sensitivities. Maybe town council thinks that's a great deal. I don't think so, but I think that we've done enough work with the team at Carlisle and Macy where we have a good idea of where we're going. And it's just a matter of, can we be more direct in terms of the presentation, at looking at the options, the more affordable options, and if that gets us a little bit closer to that 500. Personally, I'm comfortable with saying.
Do you want them to like report to the subcommittee once before going to town council?
We will anyways. I don't know if it needs to be part of the motion, but I mean, if you think it should be, sure. Yeah, we will.
Because I don't know what I'm
definitely be
voting on
having
then,
those.
honestly, if it's just like make some changes that go to 500 and we're good with it. Like I need, at least for me, I need to know that maybe you guys as subcommittee members will see it and approve it before it goes to town council.
Got it.
And if that's the case, then I think it's okay. I mean,
That would be the case.
Sure.
Yeah.
Chairman, may I also add, what you're approving here is the concept of what you like and see on the plans as they currently stand. You've asked Carlisle and Macy to try to reduce the plans as much as they can without altering what we see here as much. When we go to council, the action item for council will be to authorize staff to advertise this project for bids. When we get our bids, we're going to go back to town council with what the bids are. And if the bids come in, I'm just going to throw numbers here. Let's just say out the door, 500,000, and bids come in at 610, the lowest bid. I don't know what town council is going to do. Again, it all depends on our budget. But if they come in at 480, 425, they'll say, let's sign it and move ahead. Or they will have another option to say, Carlisle Macy, we're not accepting any bids here. We're throwing them out. Carlisle Macy, can you do something here to reduce this to this amount? And then at that point, they will work on the plans and we'll then re-advertise again.
Thank you, Dave. Interesting.
Just out of curiosity, when you put an RFP out for something like this, how many bids do you expect to get?
It all depends. We went out with the street, $2 million street project, and we got 0 bids 4 years ago. And then we went out with a storm drain project, this one here in actually Bel Air. We ended up having 13 contractors bid on it. They like these small little jobs because they're in and out and they're fillers. So I think we're going to get a lot of bids here.
Great. Thank you. I mean, were you in the process of making a motion?
I wasn't, but we can make a motion of either to meet 500K or go with David's guidance. It's kind of like, well, bids might come in lower. I mean, I'd like to do a lower cost, at least to give them that direction. And Tim and I will meet as a subcommittee with them.
yeah, I mean, what I kind of heard here was that if you could go back and try to value engineer it to get to or as close to $500,000 without majorly changing the scope of the design by value engineering it, and then having the subcommittee kind of check it or look through it once before going to town council. I think that would be the motion, right?
Yep.
Yeah. People agree with that?
Yeah, works.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second that.
Okay.
That's the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I,
Okay. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, David. And this underscores again why we've done these parks separately, one at a time, because we just spent an hour and 20 minutes on that. That's why we're not doing all four all at the same time.
All right, let's move on to
Thank
action
you.
item number 2, Belveron Mini Park draft final design.
Okay, Commissioners, we're moving on now to action item number 2, and we have Constantine here Miller from RHAA and his team that will provide a presentation on the Belveron Mini Park for the commission to hear and hear any public comments. And then again, pretty much like the Bel Air, try to move this forward to town council next month.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Nope, I think yeah. It's just been exciting to work with these guys in a kind of a forgotten play or park area that we have. And it's what we've given to them as direction is also to look at kind of a phasing or a phase 1 and a phase 2 or a more important area versus a less kind of important area, utilizing more of the town staff and their contractors to do some of the work. So that's kind of the tee up. So thank you.
All right, great. Am I audible to everybody?
Yeah, you're great.
Sounds good. Just wanted to say first off, thank you everybody for your time today. We're happy to be here presenting this project. This is sort of a special one, as we were talking about, just as Chuck was mentioning, this is kind of a forgotten gem. And I think it could be an amazing amenity to add to the adjacent Blackie's Pasture Park and the overall lineal park that has been in planning for a long time. So as we can see here, we've got a couple images of our Belveron Mini Park. On the right, we have the lower level, which we're calling phase 1, which is the existing lawn, sort of picnic area, and lovely little sort of play zone for kids. It has currently just a couple benches and an asphalt path that runs about halfway through the site. On the image to the left here, we have a really interesting upper level where you walk up a bit of a hill, a couple hundred feet up, and we have an open meadow area, some existing native plantings, some beautiful oak trees, and some really nice views back onto the bay. So those are things that we're hoping over time that we can, bring to a greater public interest and greater visitation. Just to give you a sense for where we are, as most people have not visited this park, Tiburon Boulevard, Blackie's Pasture. And then here is this 2-acre, 80,000 square foot park space that is sort of sandwiched between Mercury and Jefferson, and was a leftover when the two neighborhoods were created. And so this park space was was provided for the community. Again, here we are showing that kind of sandwich between the two neighborhood developments. Long, narrow park with phase one at the bottom, which is all pretty flat. And then you start to head up the hill, and this then becomes phase two. So just to give a little snapshot of where we started and where we've come to, originally we provided a concept talking about different program opportunities and planting approaches that could really enhance this space, provide habitat, provide different unique experiences for visitors, and possibly some environmental and educational signage and things of that nature. We then moved along to creating sort of a visual for how these things could lay out on site and what those, different nodes along the pathway as you move through the park could be. That was then vetted through the community as we moved forward and provided a little bit more detailed of a plan with those different elements laid out. And we received some really great feedback. I think everybody was in, was in very strong support of this proposal, that they would love to visit this park if these new recreational features were added. People love the lower lawn space, gives them a place to hang out, kids' birthday parties, things of that nature. They also really like the idea of picnic area opportunity as well as nature play for kids. So those were things that we definitely wanted to keep in the design and are still in design. As you can see, the interpretive signage was not the biggest hit with the community, so we have not moved forward with that in an effort to keep costs reasonable. Can jump on from there. So now we're moving into our 90% design. Those are the drawings that we have provided to the commission, to David and his team, to look at, and that our current cost estimate is based upon. So here again, we have that same view you were looking at previously, but with those site components laid out, and some of those elements were no longer included after we didn't get much public feedback. So just to run you through what we've got here. So in phase one, which is the lower half of the park, we have bike parking next to the picnic area. We have a nature play area with an interesting log element for kids to mess around on. We have benches, currently 1, 2, and 3, for people to enjoy that green area and the enhanced planting and watch their kids play. We have a picnic area with 3 different benches, ADA accessible and standard. We have walking path that runs all the way through the site and all the way up to the top where you get those really cool views back from the views by the Heritage Oak. We also included right here a boardwalk crossing that takes you over what's often a seasonally wet area when it rains, that makes the upper half of the park kind of unreachable at certain points in time. And this entire path section is ADA accessible and will allow anybody to get across that crossing and experience the grove. It should also be noted that we're planning on putting a new entry sign here and a water fountain, bottle filler, dog bowl as well. Trying to make this a place that people want to come and people want to spend a little time, and hopefully it's nice enough with enough amenity that you can stay for a bit. I should also note that in this area, you'll see on the next plan, we have included a accessible path to the benches on the south side of the green to make the entire space sort of accessible, for lack of a better word. On the upper half of the site, which is phase 2, we've included some habitat structures, which are here in the blue squares. We have included natural reclaimed wood benches along the way because it is somewhat steep and it's nice to have a place to rest. And then we've added a few additional oaks here at the top to create a bit of an oak area where there's a really amazing heritage oak near the top of the site. That area also provides some great opportunities for views back onto the bay and Blackie's pasture. So here we are in our 90% drawing, which is a little bit less visually exciting, but a whole lot more detailed. And so again, just to kind of run you through what we've got, as you come into the site, you have a new entry sign. You have your water fountain bottle filler with the existing dog waste bag. You have a turnaround that the Vector trucks and other sort of town maintenance vehicles will use to park and or turn around. This enclosure, they have to be able to get to this area to service various elements of the park. Just south of that, we have a nature play area with a big, beautiful log nature play element, a few boulders on the edge, and then some nature play like wood stump steppers. We also use the existing mound at that end of the site to kind of build a few boulders into it to make a bit of a climb play area there. As I mentioned, that accessible path runs now along the south side of the green, as well as the path on the north side, so that not only could somebody take a nice stroll if they'd like to, but also kids maybe on little push bikes could kind of pull a nice lap in here while their parents are hanging out, having a nice picnic. We've incorporated planting around the edges of this new path and screen planting at the north. So that on the north side provides a bit of a buffer, living green buffer to the neighbors at the north edge. And on the south edge, that allows us to plant some really beautiful flowering perennial plants and native plants to bring in a whole lot more of the pollinators, butterflies, etc. This area here, you'll notice, is still it's a bit open for a paved area, and that is so that maintenance trucks can come in here, reach this area, and get back out. We have bike racks here adjacent to the picnic area for anybody who might like to ride in and hang out for a bit. We also have some big belly trash cans located adjacent. One thing that's kind of cool is that there's a big exposed rock element that is part of the park already that we would like to keep in it, and it allows for a really nice opportunity for some really attractive planting around that rock feature. This asphalt path here, and I'm going to get into this a little more in a diagram in a moment, is a resurfaced path. So there's an existing path there. That's a cost mitigation approach to reuse that path and resurface it. And then that leads to a new boardwalk crossing by which folks can get across that wet area and access the upper part of the park. So this is that diagram I was referring to, and I think this is helpful for anybody who has been to the park previously, but if you haven't, I will describe. So the orange here is the existing area to be resurfaced. So that's an existing asphalt path right now. It's used for anybody accessing the park. It's also used for maintenance vehicles. We will be resurfacing that. We're going to be adding some new paving in the red areas that you can see, and that's going to be asphalt. Currently within our proposal, we have a colored asphalt so that we could potentially make it look a little bit more exciting. And we can talk about that, further when we get to the estimate. This is supposed to look more green. It's not really showing up very green in the center here, but this is the existing lawn area. We have decreased its size a bit. The existing size is the green dash. So we've kind of tightened it up a little bit and then added that planting and amenity spaces in on the edges. I should note that there are 1, 2, 3 new benches and 1, 2, 3 new picnic tables. So here we are looking at some of those site elements that I was referring to a moment ago. In conjunction with David and his team, we've identified that the big belly trash trio is kind of what we go with, and works fine. I like those. These are our 3 benches. They are by Timberform, which is a company out of the Northwest, and kind of pushing for that monolithic natural materials kind of big statement piece that goes along with our nature play elements. We also have picnic tables. This is the large double length picnic table. Those come in both standard as well as ADA accessible tables, and we would like to make sure that there's opportunities for everybody to have the same experience. We also have bike racks. These are by Street Life. They are galvanized metal with a recycled material top, super durable, really long lasting, very low maintenance. And that galvanized ties into the galvanized legs and posts of the other furnishings. We've also got a drinking fountain, which is the preferred drinking fountain in town, and we like it. We like it with the bottle filler, the water fountain, and the dog bowl. This is also an accessible fountain. Just to give you a little more sense of what a nature play log looks like. So this is a Arborica piece. We've done a lot of pieces with Arborica. They are a group that make these very large monolithic wood sculptures / play elements out of West Marin. And you can find these if you ever want to go and check it out over at Larkspur Landing. You can also find one at the Cove more nearby if you're interested in seeing that one. To the right are those wood play steppers, which are really just stumps that are connected to a footing so that they don't fall over. And kids either sit on them or jump from one to the next. These are the drawings for our boardwalk crossing. We designed this similar to the boardwalks that we had designed for Muir Woods. It's a very attractive yet simple design of 2x6 boards for the decking and 4x4 edge protection, if you will, which let's see, that is like visible right here and right here, so that anybody needing to use cane detection or be in a wheelchair or otherwise will be protected from that edge. Here's just a snippet of some of the planting that we have in the phase 1 area. So as you can see on the top there, and I apologize, it's hard to get all the plants in and still be able to see the images. But this is for the green, so that area that is around the existing lawn. So we're primarily using native plants, things that bring in pollinators, ties into our original concept that was to make this lower area by the green extremely pollinator friendly, and also to get all the butterflies and the bees. As you move back to where that crossing is, it gets more wet, and it's surrounded by willow trees, buckeyes, and some other varieties of trees. But the idea being there that we can shift into some more wet species, some more riparian species that will hopefully be able to draw in more of like the songbirds, because the songbirds love that dense, thickety sort of ecology. Shifting to the upper area, so this is phase 2. As you come up the path and you're gaining elevation, as you can see, we're crossing all of these contour lines. We're coming up this steep bit through the grove of trees, where we have then planted 4 new buckeyes and 1 new black oak. You then come up through the chaparral, which is a lower growing plant type ecology. Primarily natives in there. We'd be looking to do a little bit of planting to support that experience as you enter the meadow area. The meadow area has a 6-foot wide path and a 4-foot wide path. These are just compacted earth trails. We would maintain these groups of native plants within the meadow, enhance them a little bit with a little bit of extra planting, as you can see on the edges there. And then we would love to hydroseed the meadow with native grasses and wildflower. On the south side of the meadow, we've added evergreen shrubs for screening, as that's pretty much the only area of this property line where you get these direct views into the properties. We have also added a little bit of low planting on this area because it gets quite steep here, and we would like to create a little bit of a buffer for anybody walking that path. As I mentioned, we added a few Coast live oak in this location to create a more significant grove over time. And that's that really lovely oak that I keep referring to because I'm an oak guy. Right. So also in this area, we have some birdhouses. We have an existing owl box. And we added a couple perches for raptors. So looking at some of what those site elements are, reclaimed timber benches, we can do these in a lot of different versions. They can sit completely on the ground, as shown here in this detail on the right, and have the top cut. We could put them on top of other logs like on the left. But what we're thinking right now is that you cut the bottom of the log to fit a little bit of the grade, and then you get an interesting place to sit. We've also we did get these priced, which are sort of like modern, interesting, poppy birdhouses. I am not happy with the price that came in on these, and we'll have a chat about that in a few moments. again, here are a snippet of planting images for those different areas. We're looking at the chaparral and the chaparral and the meadow. And if there's any plant folks out there, feel free to direct any comments my way. So now jumping from the fun stuff into the cost estimates, which is also fun. This is our original cost estimate from March. So this is no longer current, but I wanted it in here so we can all see where we started and where we are now. Oops, pardon me. So our site construction subtotal previously almost just shy of 1.2. With everything included, just shy of 2 million. We were told that that is too high of a cost, and we agree. So we definitely tried to tighten that up, and we did to a degree. So what we're looking at here is a 20% reduction in cost from the March 10 to the May 15. Base costs, $151 reduction, $151,000 reduction, and then all in almost, 360, 370. So that represents about a 20% reduction. And that was primarily achieved through tightening up our square footages on what we're doing out there. And also a reduction in the contingency for the design development and the cost escalation, because as we talked about a little bit ago, as we proceed closer to a final design, that contingency drops from 20 to 10%, which is that reduction you're seeing there. And then the cost escalation also decreases as we get closer to the project construction date. So moving forward from that to a little bit of a breakdown, what we're looking at now is that for phase one, which is that lower area, our total site construction is about 750, and the total budget after everything all in is about 1.1. Phase two makes up the difference, shy of 500. So what I would like to do now is jump back, if I can, and we can always jump back to anything. Just jump back to our plan here, which is, I think, fairly easy to digest. And I would like to talk through what I've identified so far as, and maybe I should hold this discussion. You guys can let me know what you think. But we've already kind of penned out another 20% reduction that I'd like to describe. So that would be my next discussion. But if we would like to talk about anything else first, I'll open up the floor.
I think talking about your other identified 20% reduction would be a good step, because I think that would be many of our first questions.
Okay, great. So what I've identified here is about 260,000 reduction off the total. And then we also know that that design contingency is going to go from 10% to 5% as we move into our next cost estimate prior to city council. So that equals about $330,000, which is about 20% of our new total. And I apologize for any bad math. So as far as what those cost reductions look like, in phase one, currently our Arborica wood element, which is that big nature play piece, is very expensive. It came in at about $75,000. So I think what we should keep in mind is that that's the fabrication of it. So taking a raw piece of wood and turning it into a nice, smooth, beautiful thing that kids want to play on. It is the engineering of the footing and the connection to the footing so that it doesn't roll over on anybody and it sits there in a beautiful way. And then it's also the getting it to the site and having it placed. All things that become fairly expensive when dealing with a 20-foot by 5-foot piece of wood. So I think that we could probably, by taking a slightly different approach with a slightly different fabricator, and we could probably get down to about 25 with all in there. So I'm looking at about a $50,000 reduction there. I would most likely be shifting from Arborica to another fabricator that I've used previously and could show you all examples of what they do. The piece won't be quite as monolithic and large, but it will still be interesting and beautiful. So I think that that feels like a reasonable approach. Moving down the way, we have our crossing. Unfortunately, the crossing, which I'm a little surprised about, came in at about $80,000. That feels overpriced to me. So I'm going to go back to my cost estimator and kind of dig in on any of her assumptions and see if we can't reduce some of the mass of it with our structural engineer. If I could get from 80 down to more like 30, that's where I'm thinking that is. And that might mean it goes from 10 feet wide to 6 feet wide. It might mean that, you know, it gets a little bit shorter. It might mean we have 4-inch wide decking instead of 6-inch wide decking. That's the goal there. So that was the Arborica play piece 50, the crossing from 80 to 30, if we could. The big belly trash cans. So they priced them at, my estimator priced it as the kind of technologically integrated big bellies when we don't use those. We just use the standard, no electrical connection, no feedback to your cell phone. So they came in at $3,000 a piece because of that. And my guess is that they're probably about 1,000 a piece. So we save 6,000 there, which is not a big number, but it's a number. We also had 40 boulders, pardon me. We had 40 boulders, and at $1,000 a boulder, which again, I think is a high assumption, but boulders are heavy and do take some degree of labor to put them in place. I think we could eliminate all boulders on the up phase 2 area, which would bring us down 6,000. And then we could reduce by half our boulders in the lower area, saving another 14. Okay, now for phase 2. Our birdhouses, which I thought were very cool looking, are apparently much cooler than I thought. And they came in at a grand total of $38,000 in birdhouses. So unless anybody is planning to live in them, I think that we will take a different approach. And my guess is that we could do some really nice, simple wooden birdhouses for about $3 grand, and we'll save ourselves 35,000 or none. Everybody's comfortable with that.
Or we could make it a wood shop project at the middle school.
Interestingly enough, we
maybe
actually
they're free.
started to develop a kit of parts and a plan for how volunteers could put them together. So if that is something of interest, we are already ready for that and would love that. And we are happy to lend elbow grease when the time comes. Okay. Reclaimed wood benches. I think we had 8 up top. She was considering 3,000 each. I think they would be less than that to start with, but I think we'd be happy with 3. So that would take us from 24,000 down to 9,000 for a savings of 15. My math is right there. My math might be a little wrong there. Sorry. Raptor perch is really just a dead piece of wood in the ground sticking up vertically. And again, I think that our estimator did not fully understand that and price them at $5 grand each. I'm just going to say we'll use some wood that we have out there from the tree removal that we have to do. And if we can create something interesting like that, we will, but we will not be spending that kind of money, $10,000 on that. So overall for that phase 2, those items I just discussed, my rough math shows that about a $77,000 reduction. My phase 1 math of 50 plus 30, so 20, 70. That's about 100,000 in phase 1, 77,000 in phase 2. And then in a dual category, my understanding, and David, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the city's planning to do the cleanup of the natural areas to remain. That was priced in here at just shy of $60,000. I think that we can just go ahead and remove that number. So that saves us 60 there. We had erosion control, which we don't need erosion control aside from in some of those areas where we've done the cleanup. Is that something as well that those folks could do in a steep area? So again, that nixes 44,000. So in those two combined elements, we just saved ourselves about another 100. So per my math, we're at 277 right now. Although, again, don't check me too close there. Okay, then I've got a few other numbers here. One is I need to go back to our cost estimator and refine our square footage based on the fact that the city can do some of that work on the site clearing and demo number. Right now that's at 60K. I think that can drop. We can also refine the tree and site protection number, which is 44,000 because she priced each tree individually. And that's like to put orange protection fencing around each tree. The site's not like that. The site is dense groupings of trees, most of which will not even be affected by construction. So that number should not be required to protect those trees or any of the existing site features. So that's my quick reduction by 20%. And I can, I would like to work that up in better format for y'all and send that over in the next few days, if I can. So that's that part. I would like to speak quickly to donor opportunities before turning it back to y'all to chat. So recently we did a project in Larkspur that was extremely successful, New Larkspur Library, and it had a really robust donor campaign. Commons Foundation is the group that was formed. They raised a number of millions of dollars through the community that got the project over the hump and allowed us to do all the really cool stuff that made it feel complete, as opposed to like leaving the fringes sort of undealt with. It allowed us, we also partnered with Refugia Marin, which is a nonprofit that focuses on native plant gardens and then long-term maintenance and care of those spaces. I would be very happy to reach out to them for any involvement in the phase 2 area potentially, if they were interested in potentially trying to do some of the planting. They source money, so they get donations, and then they just act like a contractor. And they manage, the sub who would be installing. As far as donor opportunities go, we have some really beautiful benches in this lower area of the park. The timber form benches are awesome and fully acceptable for a donor type signage. I mean, these are nice, beautiful, big, long, 10-foot long benches. We also have really nice picnic tables. So to me, those present a really nice opportunity for a donor. I think that play elements that are also artistic and potentially sort of represent sculpture within the landscape could also be really cool as far as donor opportunities go. So that is kind of my pitch for donor opportunities. And I guess at this juncture, I will turn it back to y'all to give us some direction here. Our next step is 100% design with town council next month. And we are planning to use any and all of that time prior to getting these numbers where y'all want them to be.
Great, thank you. I'll open that up to questions from the commissioners.
Thanks, Kosin. Again, I think it's a beautiful area and it's wonderful in areas. A couple just questions. When we were out there a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, on that mound, you had talked about putting like a slide into it.
Yep.
And now the slide's gone and now it's the $75,000 log. Could you help me understand what happened there?
Yeah, certainly. So we had always had the nature play area in the design. The slide was an idea about using that mound. Slides have to be accessible to everybody. And to get accessibility to the top of the mound sort of rendered the mound itself no longer just a simple move. So instead we put the boulders on that side so that kids could have like a clamber area. And we made sure that the nature play area is fully accessible. So that has engineered wood fiber, and then it actually has to also have a concrete ramp that goes down below to make sure that folks, regardless of how much that level subsides with the engineered wood fiber, they can get down to.
Okay, thank you. You have any questions?
There was one key feature in the upper area that I was surprised you didn't flag. If you want to enlighten the rest of the commission on what we found up there a few weeks ago. You know what I'm talking about.
Are we talking about the bike jumps?
Oh yeah, we are.
So we were up there, and it's very clear that some of the neighborhood kids enjoy that space as a spot to go up and test out their skills. And we found a couple homemade bike jumps up there. We found their gardening and landscaping implements to keep it all clean. They had a little track kind of laid out. So clearly it's a place that the neighborhood kids are already using. It's kind of exciting to think that they might be able to use it further. It's really beautiful up there, to be honest. And anybody who hasn't, well, nobody would ever have a reason, I don't think, to make your way up there. But if you find yourself at Blackie's and you just want to cross the road and go up and check it out, it's really a neat spot. And it feels peaceful. It feels away from everything else. And it feels like if you were a kid, it would be an absolute like adventure hideaway. But yeah, it's pretty neat. There's beautiful trees up there. There's some really nice like native plant material. I don't know. It's a special little space, and we just want to make sure that more people can enjoy it, and that we mitigate it as well for any fire considerations. That's sort of an underlying reason for doing that. The cleanup of all those existing natural areas.
One question I do have, we talked a bit about like the path width, and sorry if you mentioned this and I missed it, but the costs here, I think we talked about, maybe it was 10 foot, you mentioned it
Yep.
earlier. Does that meaningful, which design width-wise are you looking at with the 90%? And then are there any cost savings from the narrower path versus the wider path for that area?
So the paths in phase 2, the upper hill area, are all compacted earth trails.
Correct.
The cost is very low.
Okay.
Very reasonable. I think it's like $15,000 total for the whole, both paths in the upper area by the Meadow and all the way up. What's more expensive is the asphalt path that's down in phase 1. So the existing road path that is in there now is kind of changes between about 8 feet and 10 feet wide. It flares a little bit. So what we did was, in one little section, we had to add a sliver to make it a consistent 10-foot, clean it up a little bit. And then we added that walking trail on the south side of the lawn to both allow somebody to access the nature play area, the benches along the southern part of the lawn, and the picnic area, and to provide a loop for any kids who are out there on the push bikes and want to do like a fun little loop. So trying to play into that idea of having some of the bike-oriented infrastructure there without doing like a pump track or something along those lines. Instead, it's more of like an area families can enjoy, and there's a lot of different ways it can be utilized.
So is this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, so for
10-foot path at the bottom.
Is this widening the path, or is it keeping the?
It's essentially the same width, but we just wanted it to be the same width so that if the maintenance trucks were to use it, that they're not like running on and off the path and damaging either the irrigation systems or the lawn, which was a concern that maintenance staff had expressed.
Thank you.
When you look at the phase 1 area, is there a reason that you picked the spot right past the crossing as opposed to maybe having phase 1 be like right at the end of the picnic area?
I think that we had considered it, so essentially don't include the crossing in phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think to us, providing an acceptable access to the upper part of the park was important. As right now, you can't always use that upper part of the park. And we were hopeful that regardless of the time of year, that connection could be doable for anybody and allow you to get into the Grove area even during rain events, which is, to be honest, probably when it's at its most beautiful. So that was kind of the goal, and what we felt like would give like a nice completion to that phase 1 space.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cross the crossing and then it just turns into the trail, even if nothing ever happens up there, the park feels complete.
Mm-hmm.
Without the crossing, you're kind of saying the lower park is the park. And if you want to go over there, you can. But I feel like it kind of hinders the exploration uphill.
Mhm.
And that was why we kept it in. But that's certainly a valid comment. And if we were interested in reducing the cost by the cost of the crossing, theoretically, it could be part of phase two. The path would just kind of end.
Do you know how much phase one would lower if you took out the Grove and Crossing and sort of ended it at the picnic area?
I mean, so it would be planting, a little bit of a reduction of planting, not a lot. It would be, because the Grove's already there.
Mhm.
We're not really making it. It's existing. We're trying to enhance the experience of it. So there would be some amount of site prep and clearing that would go into phase two. There would be the crossing itself, and then a small square footage of asphalt. So maybe 100,
100K.
80 being the crossing, and then maybe there's another 20,000 in 20 feet, 10 feet of 15 feet of asphalt and some adjacent planting.
I have a question, getting back to the crossing, the 10-foot by 30-foot wooden structure, were there handrails for this?
No.
And if there weren't, like if somebody rode their bike or tripped off it, how far would they fall?
Not more than 12 to 15 inches. Yeah, you're literally crossing a wet area. There's not like a ditch, there's not a ravine. It's just a very wide marshy zone when it gets wet. It would be very similar to like if you've been to Muir Woods, like the boardwalks in Muir Woods, it's based on the same design.
Yeah, going to the cost estimate of the in the breakdown, I noticed what seems quite high is the site prep. If some of the Tiburon team can do it, some of that. The pedestrian paving also seems quite steep, as well as the contractor's overhead and profit
That's a
only in
typo, I
phase
apologize.
two.
That number you identified my typo.
Okay,
Apologize. The 380 number on the right-hand side, the phase
Got it.
two.
okay,
Pardon me.
good, okay.
The paving is expensive because it's one of the few elements in the project. As everybody's talking about, things are expensive. So unfortunately, asphalt right now is almost $20 a square foot, which is what we used to pay for nice pavers. And so I used to think asphalt was like $6 to $8 a square foot. And so our costs there are more than doubled. Now I can talk to her about no surface color, and that might bring it down a couple bucks a square foot, which, you know, across this, forgetting the total square footage of paving. But if we multiplied that by 2, that would kind of be the cost reduction there. Color additive. So again, those are things I think that we could probably go after that with the idea of just having the lowest possible cost paving that we can. I do think that it's important to provide accessibility and to allow people to have the same experience regardless of mobility. So even though we knew it would cost a little more, we did add that additional path that wraps the southern part of the lawn. I also thought that made for circular play opportunities, which I think are really important in a play zone where a kid can play in the nature play, get a little bit bigger, start to play on the boulders, start to run the full lap, and then maybe start to tie that into play up and down the hill. So that was kind of the thinking there. I'm sorry, you had one more piece to your question that I missed. It was the paving, the contingency.
Like demo and site prep.
Yeah. So demo and site prep.
The point I'm asking is because if we're going to do this anyways, probably for like fire mitigation purposes, what needs to be done from like a fire perspective versus what is the additional?
Yeah. So I would say there's a difference between the number that I had talked about earlier, which is the clearing of existing natural areas. This is about 60 grand. That could go away completely. So that would shift out of site prep into, or out of demo and into the city's court, town's court, apologies. If the other areas, so if you're going to plant, there's a few steps. you have to clear the planting area and grub the planting area, which means you have to remove any plants that are there and you have to get out all the roots and rocks and other stuff. Then you have to amend the soil. And that means bringing an amendment, which costs a certain amount of money, and then tilling that into the existing soil, if that soil is usable, which we're going to assume in this park that it is. And then after that, you would sort of be able to plant. So there are a few little steps in there that are a little more expensive when it comes to planting areas versus natural areas that are just getting cleaned up. That said, I do think that our square footage number might be a little bit high on the site prep. Because most of the time cost estimators are not thinking about this type of project. They're thinking about a project where you're pretty much touching everything from edge to edge, not a natural space where a lot of the site is going to remain as is. We just want to remove invasive species and fire prone species. So a little bit more refinement there with our estimator, I think, can bring those numbers down. But it is a 2-acre site. It's a big place and it's very dense with trees and shrubs, et cetera. So that process of cleaning it up is not a tiny task. And in walking it with Chuck and Tim and David, I think everybody's aware of that, at least the folks who have been out there. I'm not that surprised that those numbers came in a little bit high. But I do think that we could probably knock those down a bit with some more communication with the estimator. I will also add, sorry.
Well, I just have one other question, but I want to, when we were out there, we were talking about adding trees, and I think they're in the plan, for screening on that one corner, I guess it's the southeast corner that's toward Tiburon Boulevard.
Yes.
That's behind those that you did put plant.
We do.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep, we're good.
That was specifically something that the folks on Jefferson specifically had wanted to try to add to that. So
we have evergreen screening shrub, more shrubs along the property lines, so that you get that kind of eye level screening as opposed to bigger trees where you're kind of looking through the trunk. And then along Tiburon Boulevard, we have a few new oaks there to mix into the existing little oak group there, as well as some lower planting. And then the mound will create some amount of visual blocks.
Great, thank you. And also thank you for when we were out there doing the site walk, we all said like, hey, this lawn seems great. I don't think we need to replace this. So thank you for making sure that
what we did, I added, I had the estimator add an allowance for repairing like 3 feet around the edge of the lawn that'll probably get kind of messed up when they put in the paths and other stuff. So there is a little bit of fix-it dollars in there.
So what is of those price value engineering kind of lists that you went through? So what is your estimate of what phase 1 would cost based on all of those adjustments?
So my phase 1 number was, I think we can come down on phase 1 probably like 175. But right now, sorry, my total number was phase 1 and phase 2 of 330. And then the contingency is going to go down by 70,000. We know that already. Mm-hmm. It's going to go from 10% to 5%.
So 275 down from lower than 1.1 million.
Yeah, if you include the phase 2, I'm thinking we come down higher than that, more like 330, 350. But yeah, about 20% total.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I can find some other dollars in there with coordination with the estimator.
All right. Why don't we move on to public comment? So is there anybody in the room, the audience, that would like to speak about this?
Hi, I'm Jenna. I live in Tiburon. Thank you for the presentation, very thorough. I just want to say first that I want all parks in Tiburon to be beautiful and welcoming spaces where people can come to play and explore and connect with neighbors. I want them all to be the best they can be. And while this design is super cool and I would love to hang out there, I really feel this park is not a high priority for our community right now in comparison to our other parks. For one, this park is very hard to access if you don't live right next to it. And also, few people are advocating for this park. I'm very active in local parent groups. Nobody's talking about this park. I've been coming to Post in town council meetings for 3 years, and I honestly recall only one person speaking publicly about this park. And that's in comparison to the significant interest in Cypress Hollow and Bel Air parks. So I think it'd be great to update this park someday, and I hope that happens, and I'd like to help support that. But with very limited funding in this town, as we all know, I think the money we do have should go to higher priority parks right now, and this one should be kind of pushed down the list. And I did hear what Chuck said early on, that by talking about this and advancing it to the town council, you're not necessarily saying it's a priority, but I think there could be the interpretation that the projects that come first could be interpreted as high priority parks coming from Post. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
All right, I'll be number 2, because again, this goes back to the original meetings we had. Belveron Park was also targeted as an offset to overutilized parks like Cypress Hollow. This really is a diamond in the rough. It's a great little property. This is a place that that mothers groups and kids should want to go. I frankly think it's another underutilized resource that absolutely should be part of the long-term goal. Cypress Hollow is it's half the size of Bel Air, and it's like a 1/4 acre. That can't be everything to everybody. And so this is a great opportunity to have another area that supports the community, that supports kids. Other than Bel Air, where we're fighting about 1 picnic bench versus 2 picnic benches, which frankly is ridiculous. I mean, we should be looking at a larger scope of a project for a property that big with that many folks around it. This is another property that's fantastic and should be developed. And you shouldn't try to stuff everything into one small itty-bitty community neighborhood park. The history behind Cypress Hollow is it's 44 homes that actually gave this park to the community. We actually still pay for it. I've been paying 3 decades for $400 a year on my taxes for this park. And you can't stuff everything for everybody into a small place. Belveron, like Bel Air, is this great diamond in the rough that gives us an opportunity to have neighborhood parks supporting neighborhood kids. And this is a fantastic opportunity to do that. I think it's a great plan, and I think it's actually nice to see that we're stretching a little bit to try to make neighborhood parks more accessible to more people. So I, for one, was, again, respectfully, I was part of the original planning, and how some of these things dropped off the master plan is mystery to me, because I've been part of a lot of these meetings. And I guess when they do these little votes that don't attend, you don't get to, but this park should not be minimized. And I think it actually is a little diamond in the rough. And if anything, it should be embraced, and it should be something that neighborhoods in the community look favorably on as another opportunity to offset overutilized places that you can't stuff everything into one small place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Okay, seeing none, why don't we move online?
Yes, we have Linda.
Hi, my name is Linda, and I'm a mom of 4 in Tiburon. My youngest is 2, and I did live in Belveron for 7 years. And I know that when you park in Bell West, which is closest to this park, it is, very busy. It's kind of like if someone's making a right into Bell West onto Jefferson, it's really hard for like a stroller there's no sidewalks in Bell East or Bell West, like whatsoever. So there's a real safety concern. Like say you park in Bell West, like with strollers or kids on scooters or strider bikes. I wouldn't advise a mother with 1 kid or especially multiple kids to park in Bell West and then walk to access this park. And then likewise, if you park in Bell East, you could park in Bell East and more safely access the park because there is like that little walking path and you don't have anyone about to turn right into you. However, as a, again, parent of 4 kids, I would, if I was leaving the neighborhood to recreate with my children, I would cross Tiburon Boulevard and enter, beautiful Blackie's pasture, which has 2 playgrounds and countless opportunities. I love these plans. I love all things parks. I would love to see these elements implemented at Blackie's, which would just serve so many more families, including all of the Belveron families. Um, so, and I just always, as always, I should have said this first, but thank you, Post, for everything that you guys are doing. I really appreciate you. This is just my 2 cents as someone who lived in Belveron for so long, with young kids. And if I was, leaving the neighborhood, I would be going to Blackie's. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
I see none.
Okay. Bring it back to discussion with the commissioners.
I think we'd get 90% or 99% of the use of the park if we did the phase 1, as you talked about, bringing it farther past where the crossing is and just concentrating on the entrance to the park and the play area and the naturalistic wood structures that the children are going to play on. So I think if budgets are a big concern, which they obviously are, I think we could look for a number where we cut the zone 1 or phase 1 farther inwards, and then we get at least 99% of the use of the park. Because I just don't see many people going farther up. You're going to have a couple of teenage kids with their jumps up there, but most people aren't going to go up there.
Great.
I think parking access is still going to be troublesome for getting people across Tiburon Boulevard. So I think that the park looks great. It's really beautiful. But I still don't know how we get more people there. And I think that's the goal, is how do we get more people to all the different parks? So how do we solve for that? And I don't know the answer to that.
Dr. Tim.
I mean, yeah, going back to the strategic plan, right? That's our North Star, so to speak. There's a couple pieces on this park so first, it's a liability that the town hasn't done any good maintenance in the back. And it's something that should be prioritized. There's a great example of poison oak. If anybody wants to go take a look at it, it's in a massively large bush. If you want to be able to say to somebody like, I don't know what poison oak looks like, there's a great bush there to look at. Not to mention a huge, large palm tree that's never been trimmed. And I think part of it is that some people don't go to it because they don't even know where it is, right? To that point. So improving signage there. The folks who live in Belveron West and East they go there. Some people go there because like with small kids, just to ride their bikes on the paved path because it's safe. There's nobody else. There's no other folks riding on bicycles at a faster speed. So parents feel safe there. When I've just been there walking around with just checking it out on a weekend. Or when we met with the neighbors over in that park area. Do I think that I love that the landscape architects have done all these pieces, but do I think it's too much? Yes, I do. Did they follow our suggestions to reduce some costs? Yes. Do I wish they had done more? Yes, to be direct. I think a $75,000 tree trunk is a crazy idea. So that would never get passed, in my opinion, unless somebody wanted to donate it to us. So I think that I would recommend actually not moving forward on this until there's more time spent on the design. This is the first, I felt, at least with the Bel Air plans, a much simpler, smaller area. We had at least a cycle to go through with them on a phone call after we saw some of the costs. We didn't have that opportunity with RHAA until literally tonight. So it really didn't give us an opportunity to do kind of like, what's this about? And what's this? And I appreciate Kosen on the fly doing all the kind of like taking our lead, saying, hey, let's do this, do that. I think that wasn't, it's actually super appreciated it, and it was yeoman's work on an unfair situation. So I appreciate you doing that. But I think I'd like to maybe table this. But I feel like I'm torn. I want to move it forward because I wanted to say like, hey, it's a shovel-ready project. If the town wants to do it, great. If the town doesn't want to do it, okay. But I think that there needs to be at least a meeting or two with us, with RHAA, just to go through these costs, to feel comfortable.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm with you on that. I mean, I love the design. You know, if we had all the resources and time in the world, I think we you know, this would be a no-brainer. But just, you know, to the points that we made earlier on Bel Air, they still hold true. We want to move something forward that has a good shake at being developed. I am interested in the concept about, you know, phase one, phase two, maybe if we focus on that front area as a phase, as like, that's the phase one, if that makes this project a little bit more palpable. So, I mean, I'm open, on however we want to do this. And somewhere, Carson, I appreciate you just like recognizing the conversation we had earlier and then trying to be responsive on the fly. You know, I'll send it to you, you know, hearing the comments, concerns, questions about maybe breaking it up to in front of the crossing as a phase one and then phasing it out a little differently. Do you have any reaction on preference from our HAA in terms of whether it would be better to come back and table this for now, work with us before we move it forward, or, you know, just want to give you an opportunity to comment on that?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, you know, I think we had discussed speeding up the process on this one a bit so that we could get in front of council next month, so that we could be here today. And so that's probably why there wasn't as much back and forth regarding the cost estimates, because they take a couple weeks to produce. And we only had maybe 4 weeks, I think, to kind of get this all in line. That said, I'm happy to work with y'all to get the number and the design where we want it to be so that everybody feels comfortable going in front of council. Now, I think the question becomes when. Are we talking about the council meeting next month? Are we talking about getting this process happening over the next 4 weeks? Or are we looking at pushing that out further? So I think that's a question I don't know the answer to. And I would follow your lead on that. RHA would love to do this entire park.
Yeah.
We would love to do 2 acres of amazing design and give people a type of park they don't have presently in Tiburon, because you don't. And this gives you a place that has a play area that's safe for families and connects to like a beautiful natural space that doesn't exist anywhere else. So I do think it's kind of a special one. And we all know that who lives in a neighborhood and who uses a park changes pretty rapidly. So kids grow up fast and new kids come in, folks move out and new families move in. The demographic in those neighborhoods might shift over time. You might find yourself with a lot more kids there. We don't really know that. So I don't think we can look at past experience to define future, and I don't think that we should. I think that we should make sure that where we have open space that's for the public, that we make it accessible and we make it enjoyable. The reason nobody goes there right now is because number one, you don't know where it is. There's no sign for it, and the trees block the whole view of it. It's pretty much a private park for the neighbors, and that's great for them. And I think that's lovely. But I also think this could be a really great place for the community. I mean, Blackie's pasture is awesome, but it's giant sweat desert anytime it's hot. Mm-hmm. And this is a shaded, beautiful lawn area with essentially a seasonal creek that runs through it. Yeah. To leave it as just an overgrown back parcel, I think overlooks what it could be. Do I think that we need the equivalent to like a beautiful Larkspur Landing wood element? Probably not. But the reason people go to Larkspur Landing and hang out in that zone is because their kids like to play on that. And it really pushes how much folks go there and how much they eat at those restaurants and do all the rest of the stuff. If that play area wasn't there, you'd see a different situation. So they might have thrown 150 grand at some logs, but I guarantee that they made that back up. So I'm thinking we could do something for less, but to do nothing at all is pretty much going to give you what you got now. So I do think that there's some awesome opportunities there. I do think that folks would go and use it if it was beautiful, garden-like, and had these other amenities and you get some water, lock up your bike and throw your trash away. those are kind of basic park amenity, basic park services that I think you need for people to want to go there. So that's kind of my feeling on it. I think this has more potential than most public spaces. And the fact that it's been just kind of hanging out there for a long time has meant that the trees and other stuff that's grown up has made it a really incredible spot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, that's my take on it. I think that it's worth the money. I think that the money exists in the community if the right channels were tapped. But at the same time, we are 100% happy to work with y'all to like bring the number to where we want it to be so that we all feel comfortable taking this in front of council. That's kind of my take on it. I do think that we could go from 3 picnic tables to 2 potentially, save $5 or $7 grand there. I do think we could go from 3 benches to 2 benches and save 10 grand or 8 grand there. So there's little bits and bobs, you know, that we can kind of parcel off pieces and save some money. But at the end of the day, I think there needs to be at least a critical mass of what you're doing to make it a new park space that's going to draw people in. If all you do is add a little loop of asphalt path and say you're good, it's not going to have any real significant effect. So I do think you have to do enough to make it new and make it interesting and make it exciting. And I think that if we just did the first phase 1, we could do that.
Right.
So that's kind of my take on it. And I could stay or go probably on the crossing. We could find another way to make it a little different. We could probably do a asphalt path with a culvert under it, you know, if we really were talking about pinching pennies. So I do think that there's a way to not necessarily just bite it off and say we're giving up on the upper 1.25 acres. But when was the last time that in this community somebody said, let's give up on that 1.25 acres with bay views? So I don't know. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, and that's because, and I appreciate your commenting that there is one section when you're up at the top, you can see all of Richardson Bay all the way to almost to San Francisco. So it's pretty unique up there. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say just independent of whatever we decide here, if we could just, I mean, shouldn't we just do the maintenance work and the fire safety work anyways? It's just part of maintenance from town. Does that?
That's the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay,
July.
so that's
Yeah,
included.
we've got
Okay.
money programmed in there.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So I guess my comment was, I love the design. I think it's beautiful. I think this park has incredible upside. But I also agree with a lot of the comments made about it, you know, how do you get there, the parking, and you know, if you stack the priorities of the other park projects that we have, where does that land? So, I mean, for me, I guess we're trying to decide, do we bring it forward to town council or do we table it for them to value engineer it more and then bring it to town council? I mean, I kind of defer to the subcommittee members on that. You guys are closest to this of what you guys would like to do. I would take your lead. But my suggestion would be, you know, if we could make phase 1 smaller, I think that's a positive. I think just having something close to $1 million for phase 1, it almost feels like a non-starter emotionally, or just how people are thinking about it, reading the tea leaves. So, and I don't know what other value engineering you could do. It sounds like there's some things you can do, like reducing the park benches and other things. If we can make the phase 1 area smaller, not including the crossing and other things, and if you get that closer, and I don't know what the right number is, but if you get that lower, I think there's a better chance that, you know, there's a possibility that we could, you know, find the money to do it. But yeah, I mean, I would defer to you guys as subcommittee members. It sounds like you didn't have enough time to really look at the numbers, and does it make sense to table it? I don't necessarily view it as a rush that we have to bring this to town council, honestly. So if you want to wait until you're happier with the product, I mean, I would be supportive of that. But if you want to move forward, I would be supportive.
Yeah, I mean, the flip side to it all is, you know, certain pieces of the price do feel like it might be a non-starter, and sending it up, knowing that, you know, we'd like to see these additional numbers, keeping in touch with the subcommittee. I mean, I'm also comfortable with that, just because then, like, you know, and council's gonna be doing their budgeting. I don't know if this would fall in front of them before that, right, over the course of June, unless that's already done.
No. So on the 3rd, they're hearing the budget and,
Yeah.
and our CIP projects.
Will all be next.
So what'll end up happening is when we go out to bid and we get our bids in, that's when we do a budget adjustment when, if town council would want to award these construction.
Question
projects.
for you then, David. So is there any utility in moving it, is there utility in moving it forward for their, whatever their June hearing that they might hear this item?
No,
It would be a
no.
no.
So
no
even,
impact.
even for Bel Air play
Yeah.
area.
Got it.
Once
Okay.
bids
We're
open,
outside of that
yeah,
process already.
we're outside of that process. So
Understood.
just so that the commission knows, our next regular meeting is July, third week in July. And then after June 17th, the next regular town council meeting is August 5th.
Got it. That's good. Okay. Well, it takes some pressure off that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think originally we had planned on trying to do these two parts just to give more, again, for the public's benefit, was not so we would have 4-hour, 5-hour long meetings of having town council go through all these at the same time to try to, I mean, we heard loud and clear that people were like, oh, that was too much. But there's no gating factor on that. I'm fine waiting and coming back in July with a more fine-tuned plan with these guys. That's fine. There's no need to.
Okay.
Yeah, and Cosin, yeah.
I would like for everybody to be excited and on board with what we're
Totally.
doing. And I know that we can get there. I've really enjoyed working with you guys, and you're really committed to this. So to me, I'd want to get it to the place where we're kind of all excited about it, as opposed to rush. If we're not gaining something significant by talking to council in whatever it is, 4 weeks, then if we instead shifted that to speaking with them in July, and we can go in there confidently, kind of.
Actually, be talking to post in July, town
Oh, I
council would be
apologize.
like August or September.
Okay, so we would kind of represent here in July,
Yes, sir.
and then council in August.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, we're certainly open to doing that.
Okay. Sam, how do you feel about that?
It's fine.
Okay.
My concern was missing a window
Right.
to sort of just get on council.
Okay.
But I know they'll read about this in the ARC, so they'll have an idea of what's coming.
All right, so why don't I make a motion that we table this today. The subcommittee goes back and works with RHAA to value engineer phase one particularly, so that we come back in July with posts with the intention of then presenting a town council in August. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, should we do a vote?
No vote on
Oh,
that.
no vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're just tabling it until July.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that. Great, let's move along here.
And thank you again to the RHA team.
No, thank you guys. Thanks everybody for your time.
All right, post commission subcommittee appointments. David, do you have a list of the subcommittees that you can bring up to the board? We have. Oh, we do. So,
Oh, I still.
Chair Moon,
Yeah.
just wondering,
Oh.
could we have Carlisle Macy just do their quick timeline on Cypress Hollow so
Oh.
they don't sit all the way to the end for that?
Listen to the phones too.
And the
You guys doing
Yeah.
Chair Moon.
yeah,
will
we could
discuss
do
the
that. That
plans.
makes sense. All right, so why don't we rearrange and go to a discussion item 2, Cypress Hollow Park. So this, just to be clear, is just to talk about the timeline. We're not going to talk about the design or people talking about that we wanted, this or that. I don't think we want to have that discussion here today. It's just about the timeline. So,
That's right. And there will be opportunities to discuss the plan.
right.
And specifics for hours at another meeting. And thanks to both of you, to everybody, to being so flexible on this. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for hearing from me again. Brianna at Carlisle Macy. So this is just an update on Cypress Hollow based on our conversations with the post subcommittee members. Cypress Hollow, as several people have mentioned, is a park with a lot of amenities in it. It includes a playground that we want to update. And we really want to get public feedback on the playground specifically. So in talking with Tim and Chuck and David, a lot of the town is out on summer vacation through June and July. And so we are targeting a special meeting of the Post Commission in August, where the public come back and we could present a presentation similar to what we've done today for Cypress Hollow, and present different playground options and also site furnishings, those kind of things for people to comment on. And then we would follow after that very similar timeline to what we're doing for Bel Air, which is come back to town council in a September 16th meeting to present construction documents for approval. And then we would go out to bidding in October of 2026. And then ideally construction could begin in November, and it would need to go into 2027 just because it's a much more involved project site.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is a matter of order. Do we need to do public comment on
yes.
this? We do. Okay. All right. So any questions from the commissioners on the timeline? Okay, let's open it up to public comment. Any public comment? If we can limit it to the process and the timeline as opposed to the park amenities itself.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your consideration. I look forward to this. This is great to know the timeline. We're going to, tell our neighborhood, and we just want to be heard. And we appreciate that. And we look forward to future conversations about the details that a lot of you know about already that we're, there's going to be debate about. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Why not? I've commented on everything else. No, I do appreciate it. And you guys have done a nice job reaching out to the community. And like I said, Cypress Hollow is different. I mean, this park was given by the 44 homes. We still pay $400 a year. Nobody else does. It may only be 25% of the overall upkeep, but we actually have a vested interest in this. This park was given by this 44 homes to the community, and it is a small neighborhood park. And I just, again, hopefully we respectfully keep it to something that makes sense. And I appreciate the outreach, and we look forward to looking at the renewed plan. So thanks for the consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Seeing none, let's move online. Any comments?
None online.
All right. So I don't think there really needs.
We have one.
Okay.
Suzanne?
Hi, this is Suzanne. Sorry, I don't know why my video is not showing, but I'm here. I just want to again thank you for your all the work you've been put into planning for our park and all the parks in the community. And one thing I'd like to comment on is how you're communicating what's going on to the public and what we have to digest before these meetings. I guess that's where I'm a little confused. So this August 20th meeting, will we be getting to view the revised plan, or it's just a chicken and an egg? Like I remember which I can't remember if it was the February or the March meeting where I think it was the March, where you presented, a new plan was presented, but we didn't have it in advance to comment on, but yet we were expected to provide public comments. It would almost seem like it should be posted, or we should be shown and explain what's the revised plan is, so we can be educated and prepared to provide public comment. So I guess I'm just asking, like on August 20th, are you going to be presenting a new design, and then will we know enough about it to be intelligent in our response? That's my concern about.
That's a great Suzanne question. I'll just have Chuck quickly answer that.
So like previously that I did in meeting with the neighborhood at the Italian restaurant in the Cove, yes, we'll do that. So just to let the public know, I made a special meeting with the members of the homeowners association and met with you and went through the plans, and we will do the same of the most recent plans that were drawn. So there's no conspiracy, there's no anything. It's very, and we don't,
Right.
that's a special effort. I just want to make sure that Suzanne, that you knew that we will do the same thing. So,
Okay.
I'm free in July. You guys free in July? Let's look in July. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Great.
Thank
Any
you.
other comments online?
None.
Okay, great. I don't think we need a discussion amongst the commissioners. So why don't we move on to session item 3, so that actually, that's just me. I think providing the update.
Yeah, so regarding the RBSD park sites, RHA is continuing to work on the designs and working with some of their own vendors and subcontractors in getting that design ready. By the end of May, we hope to have a discussion with the subcommittee on a 30% design and review. By the end of July, we hope to have a 60% design review discussion with the committee. And around that time, we also are expecting to do a community meeting regarding the RBSD ponds. And so that will be an opportunity for people in the community to provide some input on that design at the 60% level. At the end of September, we're hoping to have a 90% design review with the committee, with the goal of early November having everything ready with the final design to the post meeting and also with the town council. So that's the current process on that. Any comments from the community regarding the process and timeline from the audience or online?
None online.
Okay. So, good. Well, thank you guys. We have some boring subcommittee discussions. I don't think you guys need to stay for that. So, but thank you for coming. Yeah. Thank you for the hard work and great design. Yeah, thank you. We are, yes. David, do we want to do the discussion item 1 first, do you think, before the subcommittee?
If you'd like, I can.
Yeah, I
can
mean,
do that.
probably.
Okay.
Are there some people here that are wanting to talk about that? Yeah, okay. Okay, why don't we do that then? We're moving everything around. So discussion item 1, Black East Pasture Beach Restoration Project. David, are you going to provide a quick update on that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Okay, commissioners, members of the public, quick update here on the Black East Pasture Beach Restoration Project. Let me adjust this. There we go. So here we have just some existing photos of what the beach and the erosion looks like currently. There's about 4 feet of bank erosion, asphalt along the shoreline, just crumbled asphalt that's been out there for decades, that the erosion now is exposing more and more. What the current layout right now, this is 100% design. We've got sand and gravel beach there on the sand and gravel beach layout here that we're bringing in material. We've got some grading and removal of asphalt. These are those asphalt areas where we're removing right in here. And then over here, we had a test sill that was vegetative sill that was installed a couple months ago that we're still looking at, and it's held up throughout these the current winter that we went through here the last couple months, the inclement weather we had. And then next to it, we're going to put in a log backstop for sediment retention, which is my thumbs are too big right here. And then on the other side, it's pretty much the same type of restoration with sediment and rock retention sills to keep this beach erosion back, and the beach, sand beach, where the wave action pulls material back and brings it back in, so we stop erosion. Go to the next slide. The next slide here, this represents the beneficial reuse of the sediments. This is the delta borrowing area. So what I'd like to let the public know that originally we were approved, the state allowed us to remove, we were permitted to borrow, not remove, borrow from one location to another. We're 925 cubic yards. And we've heard a lot of folks come in and mention and talk and ask us to try to reduce this. So based on what Roger Leventhal and his team have done, is they've reduced this borrow area from 925 cubic yards to 140 cubic yards a lot of reduction, and they have secured material to fully cover that difference, that delta. And they are still looking for additional material to try to reduce that 140 cubic yards even more. So just kind of visually, if you'd like to know what 140 cubic yards would look like, it's basically the size of a full tennis court, 6 inches deep. That's the material. That's 140 cubic yards, 6-inch thick mulch on a full-size tennis court. So that's kind of the borrow area. And the borrow area on this diagram here, this is where we're going to get it. The 140 yards is this red area. This blue area is the full 925 cubic yards. So this red area here is where we're getting. This is the secondary if needed, but we already secured enough material not to borrow from there. And here is the timeline for this project. We are planning to go out to bid May 21st, which is this Thursday. We're going to have a mandatory bid walk on June 3rd with potential contractors that want to bid on this project. Cutoff for questions to the design team would be June 11th. Bids are due on June 18th. And then we will go to town council on August 5th to award the project. And then they'll start work immediately in September and be done by late October. And we'll have a ribbon cutting with the whole project completed right around that time. Again, we want to thank our grant funders, the MCF, SEC, SFBRA. This project design, monitoring, and construction 100% fully funded with grant money, over $1.5 million here, not a penny from the town to make this project happen. And the main thing here, I just do want to let the public know is it's a beach restoration, but it's really an erosion sea level rise issue that we're taking care of here. It's to stop further erosion there and making that place much pleasant, removing unwanted asphalt that's been there for over 40, 50 years, and just making that place nice. And the team here, Roger Leventhal's team, did work very closely with our Parks Master Plan WRT to make sure that we incorporate the master plan amenities that they have outlined in the plan with this beach restoration project. So I'm open for any questions if you have any.
Thanks, David. Can you remind us what's the budget amount? And the money's coming from the county, right? The county granted maybe all the award or a big part of it?
No, all of this is coming from the state conservancy. Yeah, the Coastal Conservancy. The whole grant for the construction is state money.
What is the budget for the project?
Oh, a little over $1.3 million right now.
Okay, interesting perspective. So thanks. That's good. And then and it's clear on here. So it's both sides, including the West Brunini and East Brunini Beach also.
Yes, so we are, the work will happen on both sides as shown here.
Exciting.
David, there was some public comments from certain citizens that had sort of very detailed questions about the project. I'm wondering if you had a chance to go through those and if there's anything that I guess you strongly disagreed with or thought that maybe
Yeah, there was only one late mail that came in, and much of these questions were in regards to the materials. If we've secured a lot of this material, and we have, our engineering team has secured this material. One of the long-term, or one of the questions was, can we, stage some of this material if we get it ahead of time? And we can use Blackie's pasture as a staging area because it is for the park itself. So we have the back end, the gravel parking area as a staging area for materials. If we get anything sooner than the
Okay.
construction starts and we get a good deal on it, we'll be storing it out there. One other question that kind of came to mind was we are putting in temporary fencing in this area here where this red dashed line is just temporary fencing, but it is the same split rail fencing that we use around McKegney Green,
Okay.
Blackie's Pasture. It's those split rail fencing to make it look nice and common. So it doesn't look different, but this is just to protect the succulents that they're planting there, the saltwater succulents, make sure they take, and then that fence will be removed. One of the questions here was, can we just use posts with a chain in between? We already have a design for that too. So if town council or post says, you know, we don't like the split rail fencing, put in a post with a chain between them. We can go that route as well, but we figured let's keep it uniform, the way we have the split rail fencing out there.
Okay. Okay. Anything else in there that?
Let's see. There are some questions here on BCDC permits and required signage. We're working on all that signage. Same consultant that we hired, that's working on the townwide signage at all our parks and open space has already designed the signage that's needed that BCDC has required. So we submitted that signage for BCDC to look at and approve. So yeah, everything here is done.
Okay, great.
Per permits, yes.
Perfect. All right, any other questions by commissioners? No? Okay, why don't we open it to public comment?
I'm Nancy Peterson. I live on Greenwood Beach Road, and I'm here on behalf of the Greenwood Beach Road homeowners. We support this project, so just overall, we think it's a really valuable. I mean, this is not just about our beach; it's about understanding future ways in the future to deal with these kinds of shoreline erosion. So we've really been pleased that Tiburon's taken the leadership on that and been willing to say, yeah, it's Blackie's. Everybody loves that. And we may get a little grief. So we appreciate that. I'm just a couple questions. And David, I may just follow up with you because I don't think there are issues with this at all. One is where you're going to be removing the additional big rocks, debris that's on the beach, because there's a lot beyond off to the left of where that area is. There's
Way out
farther
here.
out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you are or not, and you don't have to.
I'll follow up with you
you
once
know,
I check
respond
with
to
the
that, But
team.
that's a question a couple of my neighbors have asked me, so that's why I'm asking you. And I think that, you know, overall, what I think I would like to do, I'm glad I came for this and waited for this session, because what I'd like to do is just an update to our neighbors on the key things, not this long thing. So if you don't mind, David, I might run by you just a shorthand of 3 or 4 bullets of what's happening in the timeline.
Sure. Send me the email. I'll respond to you and then you can
Perfect, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be seeing it. So I usually ask, my husband and I tend to stay on top of these things and he's out of town. So just so that we can keep people informed.
Great.
And then they can tell other people when they walk down the street, because we get a lot of these questions and, you know, we try to answer them. So other than that, feel really positive about this. I think people will probably go, what are you doing down there? And you'll probably get some of that. So, but I think overall, this is really a positive thing to be able to take this on, not just for our community, but for other communities that can learn from this. So
Perfect.
that's how did I do on my timing? Oh, good. Wasn't paying attention. So that's my
Great.
comment.
Thank you.
Thanks, you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks.
Any other public comments?
No,
Anything
none
online? Okay, great. So this was a discussion item. There's not really a motion to be done. But thank you for the update. So why don't we move back to the subcommittee action item? Action item 3, post commission subcommittee appointments. All right.
So I think the goal here was to go through each of our subcommittees in terms of where they stood. And we don't want to talk too much about it, but just really a high level update. With the goal of deciding, do we still need to have this subcommittee? Can we basically shut the subcommittee down? If there's vacancies on an existing subcommittee that we want to keep, who should we fill it with? And then are there any other new subcommittees that we might want to add? So I think that's really the discussion that we want to have here today. So why don't we move to the first one, the Tiburon Mini Parks Improvement Subcommittee. I mean, there's still active things going on there, so I'm assuming we just want to keep those as it is, unless you guys disagree.
Looking forward to a future wind down.
All right. All right, the second one, Blackie's Pasture, that one's very much active too. We do have a vacancy. So we do need a nomination for someone to potentially fill that seat, that vacancy. So
I nominate Nicole Voss.
do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yes.
I
Okay.
I accept. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
All right, great. So we filled that position. The pickleball court subcommittee, this one may potentially wind down, but I'd like to keep it open for a little bit, just given that there's still some activity going on with the TPC. And whether or not how their usage is going to be determined based on an appeal to town council. Honestly, we're not doing a lot of work right now, just but I think it might be good to just keep that open as it is.
Yeah, I agree. And just on that, with the TPC, we're looking at somewhat of a public-private kind of partnership. So it's important for the private clubs to know that public-private partnerships are being discussed.
Yeah, thank you. All right, the kayak SCP launch subcommittee. We have 2 vacancies here. I don't know if there's anyone who is interested. I know that Jonathan, you mentioned that you were interested in this.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Nicole, I know that you were also interested, but we did hear from the town attorney that you're conflicted given the 500-foot rule, unfortunately.
You're in Corinthian. Got it.
Yeah. Unless one of you guys are very interested, I'm happy to take the second position in that subcommittee. Yeah.
I've been on it.
Both Tim and I have been on it.
Prior iterations,
So
so
maybe fresh
But
lenses,
can't go to
Okay.
but we've been spending a lot of time on it.
I would,
Alright.
we had to do one nomination at a time, right? I would nominate Jonathan for one of the spots on the subcommittee.
And-
Second,
And what I'll do is I'm writing down all the
Next
names.
step.
We'll do one motion at the end and I'll read it all.
Oh, okay,
Then
okay.
nominate Chair Boone for the second spot on the subcommittee.
second.
Okay.
And I want to go back for the pickleball, Michael, is
Yeah.
just you, no one else?
No, it's me and Chuck.
You and Chuck, okay,
Yeah.
for the pickleball.
All right, let's move on to the public swimming pool subcommittee. Is this one that we might sunset?
I'm okay sunsetting it.
Yeah.
Mike, Gafari was doing a lot of work on
Yeah.
it, but it always kind of reaches the same spot. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think we're that
Okay.
summer good to sunset. for
So why don't we sunset that? Well, actually, we should probably do a vote. Or do we need to do a vote?
I'm gonna
If-
do one at the end.
Okay, all right. And then the Zelensky Park Improvement Subcommittee, do you guys have a view on that?
Well, I think we should sunset it, but prepare to bring it back if the Chase site gets developed. So this is for this little oval area back here. And we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to put something there, but it's a really small area. But if this parking area and the Chase building get developed, there may be an opportunity to be proactive with saying like, how do we make this more of a civic center like area versus kind of the independently, the library doing its own thing, and then the town hall did its own thing, and then something else over there. So it just, but right now there's not much to do.
So sunset it for now.
All right, so we'll sunset that one. And then the Old Rail Trail Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Subcommittee. Chuck, would you like to have another member? help
I'd
you?
love to have another member.
Okay.
Is there an interest by one of you two potentially for that? Okay,
Yeah,
Jonathan.
I'd like to apply for that.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, Jonathan, I'd like to nominate you. So if we would have Mr. Jonathan Kahn.
I'll second that. And so on that front, on the bicycle subcommittee, there is a survey out that's been pushed out that town council has, that the town staff has put together. So please promote that. It's something that we've been wanting to do for a while. There's a lot of other stuff that's going on with this right now about trying to do some stuff on this. So that would be great if people could promote it. I think maybe even it might be in an ARC article this week, maybe. Yes, it is.
And the poster boards are out all along the old rail trail now too.
Exciting. There's little poster boards out there too on the sandwich boards. So thanks, David, for making that happen.
So I'm just going to recap what we have here and then we'll do one vote.
Yeah, so I wanted to potentially talk about some new subcommittees that we may or may not want to create. So one idea I had was, I mean, what we're doing with the beach restoration project is incredible in my mind. We aren't paying for it. It's helping with climate change and erosion. It's making Tiburon better with Sandy Beach. I wonder, like, should we put some energy behind post to have some people focused on how can we do more of this within Tiburon in other parts of Tiburon? And, you know, can there be more funding to, you know, basically after we're done with this project, can we then just kind of look at the entire riffraff that we have in Tiburon? Could we do, I mean, could we just make all of Tiburon a beach? And if it doesn't cost us money, I mean, I think it would be incredible. So that was just an idea. I don't know what you guys think or any open to discussion or any ideas or thoughts.
Well, I'd like to ask our engineer, my understanding that this is a new way of thinking about controlling erosion instead of riprap and groins that have been put in traditionally. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is this experimental or has this been tried in other areas?
This has been tried in other areas and so far Aramburu Island there, I think they've had it there for almost a little over 10 years. And it's working quite well. But this is considered a pilot project here and it will be monitored for the next 3 to 5 years.
And what other areas of the Tiburon shoreline do you think would be amenable to this new type of technique of erosion control?
Haven't looked at many other areas. I know the county has looked at the backside of the peninsula off of Paradise, a few areas out there. They ended up going with Blackie's pasture versus over there on Paradise Beach. They had some areas out there, but they mainly look for erosion areas that have eroded. But definitely I have talked to the project team and asked them to expand if we can do some more areas here around Tiburon Peninsula. And their answer to me was, let's see how this one pans out first and then we'll continue.
So David, do you think that more energy from this group could help accelerate that? Or do you think like maybe we should wait till this project's done and then kind of decide later this year if more sort of focused energy around this could help?
I would advise to wait until this is done. This project is constructed and let's see how it turns out.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of unknowns. You know, this is all nature-based.
Right.
But it's proven scientifically that, you know, it'll work engineering wise, it'll work. So let's table this for that one until we finish this project and we have more discussions with the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other idea I had was a subcommittee that's maybe focused on kind of being a liaison with the community on creating a foundation, a parks kind of foundation to fund all of the projects that we're looking at. I don't know if that would be helpful. Looking to Jenna maybe to see like if there would be like a liaison from Post that like sort of coordinates to help with the fundraising.
But it'd be even more than I think than just the parks. It may be just for, I mean, in San Francisco, there used to be, they had a bit of a troubling challenge, but actually all the parks, each park has its own foundation, its own little, like, there was like Friends of Alta Plaza Park that we were part of when we lived next to Alta Plaza Park. And there was also a San Francisco Parks Alliance as well, that exists. And Mill Valley has something very similar to that. I don't know how much of their parks, I mean, I think it's a good idea, but it's a matter of who's carrying the ball, I think, as David pointed out, and maybe trying to figure out how that works with the town attorney. You couldn't be on the board of it. But
So I was thinking that because as we've had some discussions around this, it seems like everyone's kind of not sure who has the ball. You know, there's obviously engaged citizens, there's town council, there's us, there's town management. But if you said who's in charge of making sure a foundation gets started and we're going to fund all these projects, I'm not sure who that person is right now.
I would say the best way to go about this is, instead of having many different members of the community, want to have separate meetings with the town manager, because it's just not possible. He's very busy. If we do have a subcommittee that goes out with these different members of the community that want to create some type of organization, that everything is funneled through the commission to staff, I think it'll actually be a lot more efficient that way.
Yeah. Is that potentially something that you might be interested in? Like, as a
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah.
Because I want to see it funded. I want to make sure like we're not getting to the point where we present to town council and we don't have the money.
Yeah.
We want to, and I know they will probably put up some money, but I want to show where we found grants, where we've brought private donors so that they can see the whole picture.
Right. Okay. What do you guys think?
I agree with that, but and Nicole mentioned this on grants, and this goes actually a question to David, and it's also, but there's lots of grants out there, but like for the trestle, just as a FYI, and Jonathan, this will be important on the bicycle pieces, is we already have a shovel-ready project to widen Trestle Glen so it's safer for bicyclists and pedestrians to be on that stretch of road from Paradise down to Tiburon Boulevard. It's very narrow, particularly where the bridge is. And we can't seem to get funding from a grant on that front. And we've done it for every time you've been here, every year. So it's almost like it's insanity, right? That we keep on putting this forward and we keep on losing, right? Because it's like the same result happens. So I love the grant idea, but there's so many other things. Is it grants? So it's, I love it, but it's also like, how do you minimize the scope of it? Because there's all this, like, to do the new park pieces, but then there's going to be maintenance for these pieces. There's going to be each of the individual parks. So that would be a question. So whether or not there's a scope on that, I don't want to, but there may be an importance to put a scope on that. So maybe it is for the new parks.
Yeah, so
That's all.
My thought was that it was specifically for the parks. Like, basically these designs that we're putting forward help find money so we can do them.
So I think it's important to just make sure it's that piece.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else?
What did you want to name this subcommittee?
I don't
It's
know.
like a Tiburon Park Capital Fund or something like sexier than that, but you got any interesting names of it? No.
Okay.
We'll think of a name.
Well, yeah, we'll think, but we've got Nicole, Commissioner Voss is one. Do we have another? Commissioner Holmbrook, okay. Okay.
Get your checkbooks out.
That
Get a tax.
Any additional?
To
Approve the, okay.
the whole package?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, public comment on this?
Okay.
Sorry, it's very fast.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I think the subcommittees have been very successful, and I appreciate Post setting them up when it did. I know it's been a lot of work for everyone, but I think it's enabled all of these park projects to keep moving forward. And it's been so successful that I think it would be wonderful if Post would advise the town council to create a similar process, to create a subcommittee dedicated to parks, particularly with all these great projects ripe on the vine, ready to go, to ensure they don't die on the vine. If they also had people who are accountable and people that the community could talk to about these projects and help move them forward. And I think, as an advisory commission, probably could be within your purview to make a suggestion like that. So just wanted to say thanks. And also I'd love to see this replicated within the town council. Thanks.
I have no public comment online. So as far as the committees go, for the first one, the Tiburon Mini Parks, it's staying the same with Commissioner Holmbrook and Commissioner Burr. The Blackie's Pasture, it's Chair Moon and Commissioner Ross. For the third one, the pickleball courts, it'll stay the same with Commissioner Moon and Commissioner Holmbrook. For the kayak launch, we have Commissioner Khan and Commissioner Moon. We are sunsetting the public swimming pool subcommittee. We are sunsetting the Zielinski Park Improvement Subcommittee until, if we need to bring that back, we will. The Old Rail Trail and Pedestrian Safety Subcommittee, we have Commissioner Holmbrook and Commissioner Khan, and we're forming a new subcommittee, Tiburon Capital Parks Fund Subcommittee. And on that, we will have Commissioner Voss and Commissioner Holmbrook. So do we have a motion to accept this list?
To accept that list.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
I
David.
think we're adjourned.